Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
First inning, a high drive. Way back there toward the triangle. Freedom racing back. And that one is going to be off the wall. That's going to keep on rolling on the warning track. Here comes Ravi, third. He's trying to score. Looking for an inside to Parker. He dives in with an inside the park home run. Swinging a high fly ball. He get underneath this one. A drive to right. And that ball is gone. A grand slam. It's a runaway indeed. In the air to center field. Merrill going back towards the wall. He leaps in. Merrill makes the catch in center field. Oh, that's Jackson Merrill and a little Merrill madness.
Going. The pitch is up and out. The throw goes off of Hellman out into center field. Hellman scrambles to third. He's going to turn it. Here he comes to the plate, and he is safe. Unbelievable daring.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centrus Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
How we doing?
We're doing pretty good. How are you?
We're good. We're not going to keep it on this channel, though.
No, we can change it. I got my tennis over here, so I can change yours.
Yeah, let's do that. We're not going to double dip with tennis on two TVs.
Well, I mean, you can only see one of them.
No, but I don't need. I mean, Pagula already lost to Concierto. So.
Yeah, it was like 58 minutes. That was pretty rough.
Yeah, she's a 3-seed too, right?
Yeah, just dispatched.
Yeah,
unceremoniously.
Doesn't seem like this is going to be a good run for the old United States.
The Americans are going to have a tough go.
Yeah. Man, especially getting upset like crazy. And you almost lost your boy yesterday, so I'm glad we didn't have to deal with that because I'm not interested in seeing you in that bad of a mood.
He wasn't going to lose. It was all right. That's just what he does.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's frustrating.
Well, I mean, sure, but it's not. I get it where he has the kind of get up, but
you play with your food. Sometimes you go hungry.
Well, I told you before even anything. Knowing how you felt about his temperament, that's not a good first-round matchup.
Yeah, Fognini is really good.
I said that last week when I saw the draw.
You did immediately.
I'm like, that's not a good draw.
No, that's a tough draw for him. Like that's a tough beat,
yeah.
And we saw that.
And
honestly, if there isn't the age and probably energy disparity there, like that probably goes the other way.
Yeah.
Like
he
ran out of gas.
That fifth set was like, whew, quickie.
That was a hey we. Probably
enough playing around.
Probably only had the 4 hours in me if I'm the 38-year-old.
Yeah, so I'm like, but the downside to getting it off tennis is I'm not interested in reading about or hearing about the Steelers or LeBron's 53 mil. So
you don't want to hear the people are trying to put together trade offers for TJ Watt?
I'm torn. You know, I'm a huge Watt guy, obviously. I told you I would make the case that he is the single most important person to his team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not that is as a non-quarterback. So
I think I could make that. I mean, I think you can make that argument. I wouldn't.
I think their win percentage when he plays versus when he doesn't is incredible.
Yeah, I wouldn't fight you on that at all.
So, but as a Steelers fan, I have seen this, I don't know, 10, 15, 18 times where a key cog in the organization isn't brought back or they don't get a deal done or is outright released.
Yeah.
So I've seen it for years.
It's kind of funny because that's the thing that always gets attributed to Belichick and the Patriots. The Steelers have been doing that for a long time, too.
Yeah, well, without question.
Like, that's just kind of how they operate.
I've seen it. I've seen it a lot.
So you think if they say, hey, we'll accept these trade offers, then it'd be
nice.
Give them the benefit of the doubt.
It'd be nice if they could get a couple of first-rounders. I do think they have a good group of some young pass rushers, but, I mean, it's Watt.
Yeah. And impact pass rushers are
hard to come by.
But
I was clearly worried. I think we even talked about this in passing when Myles Garrett
got the big money.
Set the market.
Yeah,
that was going to be a problem.
This is low key why I know we talked about this a little bit. Not everything has to come back to Nebraska. It's low-key one of the reasons I'm high on this defensive line. As good as Nebraska was last year there, not a lot of impact pass rushers, right? And that's been the case for how many years? Since Gregory, basically?
It's been a while, yeah.
So we're talking decade plus. There's multiple guys on this team that I look at and say, hey, they can be impact pass rushers. So I'll take my chances there.
I hope you're right. I don't know about natural pass rushing, but I hope you're right.
I hope so too.
I mean, I could see a lot of it coming through pressure though.
Yeah,
and design.
Yeah,
which I feel pretty confident about.
Yeah,
because it's going to be highly competitive. I mean, even guys, you hear Coach Butler say, well, you don't really hear him, but like I know he feels like this is going to be a competitive camp, and without any preconceived notion or slotted spots, if in fact they actually operate like that, it's going to be
just let it open up.
Yeah. So I think going back to the Steel City, I mean, listen, it was a busy day yesterday. And anytime you can have John O. Smith play with, Freiermuth and Metcalf, and you think you give yourself a chance. Defensively, they always find a way to figure it out, but it has lately evolved around T.J. Watt. So,
I mean, it'd
be nice to recoup a first rounder or two.
Get a little younger.
Yeah.
Get some young.
Because they have gotten younger on defense kind of before our eyes. But, I mean, this is the first time, I think, in a long time where I get the sense that Tomlin has to win a playoff game. I'm not going to say hot seat because I don't think the organization would do that to him. But I could see parting of the ways. And I hate to even say that before the season starts because there's, very little defeatist attitude in me. But I don't know. It's clearly critical. I am not encouraged by about Watt being signed.
Yeah, I would have to imagine that is. I mean, you kind of just wanted to get resolved one way or another, though, right? Is that where you're at with it? You just don't want it lingering?
Not so much that as because whoever gets him, I don't want them to reap the benefits right away, so they can go ahead and slow that process down. I mean, I don't care.
So you're sort of resigned that he's not coming back, so you want it to take as long as possible.
I'm probably 70-30.
Okay.
I mean, I was talking to Amazing Daniel last night. I'm just like, I just don't see how at this point in the offseason they get the deal done. It's just not really what the Steelers do.
Like if they weren't willing to pay the money at first, they're probably not changing their mind.
I think they know where they need to be.
Yeah, they're not changing their mind on the number.
But I'm not one of those people that I wasn't super knee-jerk yesterday over the Mika Ramsey thing either. And the more as I was filling you guys in on the actual numbers,
which
it's confusing.
It's unnecessarily complicated.
Yeah, it's not near as bad as the NBA, though.
Not now, no.
The NBA is horrible.
The aprons are so bad now.
I mean, and I get it. You guys think you're pretty slick with what's going to happen with Kuminga, but even that's complicated. The value. Remember, I sent you the the $25 million for the $25 million and the sign and trade, and you can't get a guy worth more money, and it has to be like a
1-for-1 because you can't split it up into two when you're over the second apron. And it's stupid.
Well, it's basically the opposite of what the Steelers just did with Jalen Ramsey's money, right? They could defer that.
Yeah, they split that thing up
over the 3 years.
Yeah,
and actually, I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea what the Dolphins are doing.
I don't either.
Well, clearly they're in a rebuild.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a
bad news if you're Tua and McDaniel.
Well, let's just call it a reset. I don't want to say rebuild. I don't want to say rebuild. They're clearly in a reset.
I feel like a reset's what you call it when you don't want to commit to a full rebuild.
Well, I mean, they let the Steelers shave off like $3 million. And I mean, I get it. I mean, I don't know if Jacob was trolling me. He's like, 28-year-old Minka for a 30-year-old Jalen. And I'm like, yes and no. Yes, and especially if Jalen can play inside and move opposite, like maybe be a nickel, which
I think he's capable if he's willing.
Which would accept. Yeah. And who knows what you're going to get, but now you've got Jalen, DK, and Aaron. And so they need to get off to a good start because they're going to get a ton of microphones.
Yeah, they got too many knuckleheads in there,
and they're all
to
weird,
struggle early.
In their own way. I mean,
DK seems maybe this is my perception.
I agree. He's the least volatile of the bunch.
Yes, he seems less toxic.
Yeah,
of the three.
I agree. I agree.
I think Aaron's probably the most toxic. I'd probably go.
I don't know.
I'd probably go Rodgers. If nothing else, positionally.
Aaron Rodgers stuff isn't. I mean, it's what we make it with A-Rod. It's not football. I mean, it's hot takes about, what's going on.
So you're saying you think he's liked better in the locker room than Ramsey?
I 100%. Okay. But I've said that all along. I've said that pre-Steelers.
Yeah.
His team.
I haven't heard much about his teammates.
His teammates seem to like him.
Yeah.
So I don't really worry about that. Now, whether he's in a cave or likes ayahuasca or doesn't want, vaccinations or he's talking politics, that's the part where people take umbrage typically. I mean, it's not like he's saying things like, well, got to get better receivers or, you know what I mean? It's just, they aren't like hot football takes.
Yeah, he needs to go sign Alan Lazard.
So, I don't know. I'm just not super confident over Watt at all. And I'm also not upset about LeBron's $53 million either. Now,
you aren't upset.
I'm not.
Yeah.
If I'm LeBron James, I mean, I get every penny.
Sure.
I just do. What he's done for the league, I think, is
he's owed every dollar.
Yeah, you could make for as much as I dislike him, you could make the case he's underpaid.
Oh, I think if you look directly, just look at Cleveland for example, right? That franchise almost collapsed when he left the first time. You could, for as much money as he's made, and he's made plenty. His market value, if there was no cap and there was no restrictions on contracts, would be dramatically more than he's been paid.
And quietly, I like how the league has kind of had to restructure during the CBA. Kind of started with the way he wanted to do contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Short runways, big numbers,
maximizing
the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have him to thank for how they can do their contracts. You look at some of these free agent signings, man, 2-year, 40-some mil for that?
Some of the longer-term money has been tamped down a little bit, though.
It has, because I think with the luxury tax being hard line now.
Yeah, people are getting
they're pretty savvy, and it's not built for the long haul. You got a 3 or 4 year window.
Yeah, that's it.
So I don't mind. The economics fascinate me.
Mm-hmm.
I was real slow to go on the Minka Ramsey thing, and everybody had their quick knee jerks, and I'm like, guys, and it's even more will come out in the next couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
But on the short runway, the Steelers are going to save about $3 million, which doesn't seem like much, but for the last 9-10 years, their cap space, it just hasn't been good.
Yeah.
So they need a little need a little cushion while I think they can still win. But the key for me is got to get at least one extra first rounder.
Yeah. If you're letting Watt go, or just in general.
Yeah, just get me an extra first.
Yeah. Give yourself a chance.
Yeah. I haven't been excited about their draft in years.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
And clearly, for as good as they are with wide receivers and some other areas in terms of targeting guys, can't find a quarterback to save their life. So,
yeah, that seems to be going around.
It's like the enigma wrapped in a riddle.
It's funny, you sent me this list. I think TK was on that one too, with the top 5 quarterbacks in the
Big Ten.
In the Big Ten.
Oh yeah.
And number 2,
I was shocked.
So number 2 on the list is the one that really got me.
I can't even remember. It went Sand 5, Raiola 4, Altmaier 3. Just 2 more?
Yeah, number 2 is Dante Moore.
Yeah, so 2 guys. So why I originally sent it was the highest spot that I had seen for 2 guys, which 40% of the top 5 and 2 of the guys are newcomers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is the first time I've seen a list like this.
Yeah.
I'd never seen Moore that high, and I had never seen Raiola that high.
And Sand hasn't thrown a pass, so.
And you know what? I did. Did you listen to kind of his?
Yeah. His reasoning on saying made more sense.
But it was very similar to Moore, too. The 2 was high, though.
And here's the thing that I had an issue with.
I got to send that to Shane just because I'd like for everybody to be playing with the same deck.
Here's the issue I had with the Moore ranking at 2.
Was it just the 2 of you on there?
His reasoning was...
What is he doing here?
I think he just missed us. His reasoning...
Hi. How are we doing? Well, that's kind of a surprise. I like the Carolina blue, though.
Hey, I'm also wearing Carolina blue today.
See? Yeah, I almost wore that pullover.
I know. It's a good pullover.
But
the T-shirt under is
with
the
new assortment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be the adult dude that calls the other adult dude and says, "Hey, what are you wearing today?" But I do not want to dress like you.
So here's I'm going to give you a little secret here.
Cheat code?
Yeah. So I always, whenever I'm wearing one of these, I'm always wearing a T-shirt underneath that I don't mind
pull
wearing.
it off.
Yeah. So it's not, if we show up wearing the same thing, not a big deal.
All right.
So we'll take care of it.
All right.
I've thought about this ahead of time because I was like, I also don't want to be the matching guys.
Don't matter to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, listen, I'll wear a nice T-shirt that I like or shirt under that I like, so I don't have to worry about.
Shane, I'm going to send you this link. What's the easiest way to send it?
Email's cool.
I knew he was going to say that. That's the one I don't want to do.
Okay, then text it to me.
Are you sure?
Yeah, do it.
I don't want you whining.
He's definitely going to whine.
I don't know what the volume is. I don't know. You gotta do
What
that.
is up?
Yeah. Well, the text message didn't come through.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No, but here's the problem I had, and we'll have Shane queued up here in a second. The problem I had with
we should have sent it over to Suave so he could put the graphic up, but I could screenshot it to him. The final.
That's true. Yeah, you can get it over there. The Dante Moore.
You think Suave is up?
Oh yeah, he's up and cracking.
All right.
I'm sure, unless he's
one of the 32 kids is up.
Had a call to the hospital, which I don't know if he has or not yet.
It's just a very, very, very interesting list. But I'll send it over to Suave.
Here's the pushback I had with Oregon, or with Dante Moore in Oregon at number 2. His reasoning was, I have to count on the development of Oregon's quarterbacks.
Yeah, you talking about all the old heads, which doesn't really count.
What did they do? Like, was Dylan Gabriel the same guy he's always been?
I mean, pretty much.
Okay, so
how did you feel about Bo Nix?
Bo Nix got better, but who was the offensive?
And it wasn't on Lanning's watch.
Well, so it was, but it was on Dillingham. Yeah, he came the same year. I looked it up last night. He came the same year Lanning was.
I'm talking about Lanning as a developer. Dillingham was the guy that should get the credit.
Dillingham was the OC.
It wasn't on his. Lanning.
And Lanning's a defensive guy anyway. Like I sit there and I go, okay, so Dillingham was the OC the year that Bo Nix made the leap. That guy's now at Arizona State. And listen, he had a great year the year after without Dillingham once Dillingham went to ASU. But that leap came with a guy that's no longer there. Gabriel was exactly who he was. Like, what development are we talking about?
Yeah.
I can play your clip whenever you want.
Go for it, bud.
Do you want to go through the whole thing or just Dante Moore?
Let's go through the whole thing.
All right.
It's not that long, is it?
No,
okay.
It's not. This is very interesting. Shane, cue the because AJ can't get the graphic up. It has to be Suave, right? Well, I don't know. You got lips. Speak up. I'm just glad you're in our bed today. Someone sleeping in our bed. Can you do it, AJ? Okay. Wow, we got both of them?
Oh.
Hey, did we miss the memo? Are we partying and nobody told us, or
are we in trouble? Is this our chaperones?
I don't know, but your boy needs an excuse to drink in the morning. That would be fantastic right about now. So if we're having a party, let's giddy on up.
All right, Shane, let's hit the audio there.
Here's my top 5 quarterbacks in the Big Ten in 2025. At number 5 is Julian Sayin at Ohio State. You can't keep an Ohio State quarterback of this talent level out of the top 5, especially with the best skill players in the country around him. Maybe I'll look bad for having him at number 5, who knows, but with Sayin still not even named the starter, this is where he sits for now. At number 4 is Dylan Raiola at Nebraska, the former 5-star quarterback, second year starting for Raiola, flashes of brilliance every weekend in year 1. You could see the raw talent he has. task. We're going to see an even more complete player this season, and the schedule lines up for much more wins in 2025. Number 3 is Luke Altmaier at Illinois, another Big Ten veteran leader. This is Altmaier's 3rd season starting at Illinois, and it feels like the public isn't quite aware. Altmaier's coming off a 22 touchdown and just 6 interception season. If Altmaier takes the next step, Illinois will compete for a college football playoff bid. And number 2 is Dante Moore at Oregon. This is a pure projection pick, but it feels safe when you consider Oregon's success developing quarterbacks.
Shane, pause.
With Dante Moore's talent level, and I feel.
Is it the feel safe part?
Yes.
Okay, keep going, Shane.
Great about this one. A player like Moore getting the opportunity to see the field as a true freshman at UCLA and then get his development year in 2024 at Oregon is very underrated. Oregon's offense won't skip a beat, and Dante Moore is in the Heisman conversation. At number 1 is Drew Aller, quarterback at Penn State. He's the clear-cut number 1 quarterback in the Big Ten. It's hard to find a third-year starting quarterback at this level with 53 career passing touchdowns to just 10 interceptions. Add in another full offseason with his offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki. Listen, Drew Aller made a phenomenal decision coming back to Penn State for 2025. He will compete for a national championship and become an all-time Penn State legend. Let us know in the comments.
Now, that's Adam Brenaman from the Big Ten Network, in case you're wondering where that came from. So he went Aller 1, Moore 2, Altmaier 3, Raiola 4, Julian Sand 5. You couple of issues that furrowed your little baby hairy brows.
So my biggest issue with saying is we don't even know if he's going to start.
He did admit that.
Yes, but like it's hard to put a top guy in the top 5. You don't even know if he's going to start.
All right, but hang on though.
So like
Shane, go back to the very beginning.
I have the
please.
least amount of problem with saying compared to Moore.
Let's walk through this.
But
Let's listen to what Adam said. Yay or nay that this is true.
Okay.
Go ahead, Shane.
Here's my top 5 quarterbacks in the Big Ten in 2025. At number 5 is Julian Sayin at Ohio State. You can't keep an Ohio State quarterback of this talent level out of the top 5, especially with the best skill players in the country around it. Maybe I'll look bad for having him at number 5, who knows, but with Sayin still not even named the starter, this is where he sits for now.
What did he told no lies?
he did tell no lies. I still think there's an argument to be made that he shouldn't be on the list.
Okay. That's so I'm cool with that. I just want to know how you're thinking.
So
because he doesn't make it so. I want to say that.
Yeah.
But he did give you all the rationale, and he did say, hey, look, man.
I mean, the rationale is basically like it's an Ohio State quarterback. They're going to be good.
Yeah.
Which I can live with.
And he also admitted that he may not even be the starter.
Well,
he said, but for now.
So he said he hasn't been named the starter yet. The way I heard that is he expects him to be named the starter and doesn't have a lot of question about it.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe I'm processing that differently or incorrectly.
Shane, one more time. One more time
From
our
the
listeners.
beginning.
From the beginning for our little listeners out there.
Here's my top 5 quarterbacks in the Big Ten in 2025. At number 5 is Julian Sayin at Ohio State. You can't keep an Ohio State quarterback of this talent level out of the top 5, especially with the best skill players in the country around it. Maybe I'll look bad for having him at number 5, who knows, but with Sayin still not even named the starter, this is where he sits
Stop.
now.
That's not how I heard it. Still not even named the starter yet. Isn't that he's expecting it?
So
it
in the
was
context,
more like still.
So in the context of what he says, he goes, I may look bad at having him for number
Raiola at
5,
Nebraska.
even with him, but with him still not having been named the starter yet.
He said
Like-
even named. Like
So what I heard,
when I hear even,
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk you into it. There's context clues in the verbiage.
so
Though.
what I heard is within the context of him having him at 5 is he thought if he had actually been named the starter already, he'd have him higher.
Okay, but listen,
That's how I processed it.
so if we're waiting on Suave, right? And he said, "Oh man, I'm going to be here at 7:10." I said, "Oh, I expect him here at 7:10."
Mhm.
And it's 7 whatever, and I go, "He's not even here yet." What does even mean to you?
It means he would have expected it by now. In that context, that's how I took it.
Okay, so you think he hasn't even been named the starter yet? I think he's saying, I know I'm saying this without him even being named the starter yet.
So
That's how I look at it.
The way I took it was I've got him at 5, and if he'd been named the starter already, he'd be higher.
Sorry, Suave. I know you're usually punctual.
Like that's how
I just made that time up.
That's how I took it. Is if he had been named the starter already, he'd be higher on the list.
All right, let's go to Shane. Drag that little mouse thing, the Jerry of the Tom and Jerry, and go to Moore. Number 2.
I don't have a huge issue with saying just not the way I do with Moore.
Okay, that's fine. I just
I get the logic of, hey, it's the Ohio State quarterback. They're going to be good.
we're just shooting a breeze. Let it rip, Rick Liquid.
Dante Moore at Oregon. This is a pure projection pick, but it feels safe when you consider Oregon's success developing quarterbacks. Pair it with
And he lies there.
Yes.
The development
Oregon's
of quarterbacks.
success with developing quarterbacks. They haven't done that. Dillingham did it 1 year with Bo Nix. Dillingham doesn't work there anymore. Dylan Gabriel was exactly the same guy he had always been, and those are our only two examples under Lanning.
Okay,
you can't go back before that.
Go ahead, Shane.
Dante Moore's talent level, and I feel great about this one. A player like Moore getting the opportunity to see the field as a true freshman at UCLA and then get his development year in 2024 at Oregon is very underrated. Oregon's offense won't skip a beat, and Dante Moore is in the Heisman conversation. At number
now
one.
That is out there.
There's a couple things that are out there because saying their offense won't skip a beat, you can't make that assumption with more skill set. We have no idea. His numbers from UCLA aren't good.
No, they weren't. Actually.
And even, I know people are going to be like, oh, well, 11-9, that's very similar. But 53% passing, he was not an accurate or consistent passer.
And, full disclosure, if you're watching this clip, they're showing him throw the ball during spring game and stuff like that. He doesn't look like a very pure passer. Now listen, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. I'm not going to be hung up on that.
But the last two guys they've had were pretty precise and accurate, right? Like, that's what they did.
Yeah.
So if I sit here and I go, okay, their offense may be good still, but it's going to have to look different, I think.
And they'll be able to tote it. They should, because they're really good up front on the offensive line. And Mikhail, they got a guy that can tote the mail.
You want to know what Dylan Gabriel's completion percentage was last year?
Can I guess?
Go for it.
66%.
Higher.
8?
Higher.
70.
Higher.
Okay, that's fine.
73%.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Do you know what Bo Nix's were his 2 years at Oregon?
Oh, it's up there.
The last one's unholy.
That's really up there. I think he's a three-quarter guy. He was 75%.
77 as a senior, 72 as a junior.
Yeah.
So
I'll get you in the middle with the average.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So between the three of them, we're talking about basically 75% of your passes were completed over the last 3 years. Yeah. And now you're expecting Dante Moore, who completed 53% of his passes,
to take a 20-some%. Jump. I don't know.
He said not to miss a beat and to be a Heisman contender.
Yeah.
So that's listen, I'm not saying he can't be good.
Yeah.
But Fernando Mendoza deserves to be in the top 5 over Dante Moore. We have a bigger track record with Fernando Mendoza being good, and we actually do have a track record of Cignetti making quarterbacks better.
Yeah.
We don't have that with Lanning. That doesn't exist.
I was a little taken aback. It's
just not accurate.
I get it. It's list season, and I like Breneman too.
I like Breneman, and I like lists
because he's a good processor.
He is, but he missed it on. I at least understand the logic on Ohio State and Julian Sayin. I do. Ohio State's going to have a good quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be Sayin or Kleinholz or somebody else, but they will have a good quarterback. I feel confident about that.
Really?
Yes. I feel like they will.
Can I just say this about Ohio State real quick?
Yeah.
You know the one assumption I'm not willing to make?
Quarterback?
No.
What?
We're missing the great big picture.
What's that?
And this guy's already being compared to Trent Williams, and he's a rookie. Ohio State lost a lot up front, man.
Fair.
They were really good. Simmons was we're making the last position I want to assume about is O-line.
Fair. Totally fair.
And so that was the secret sauce for that football team the last handful of years. They were good up front. And they weren't even and they were really good up front last year, and they still weren't physical enough for a team like Michigan. So
can I make the argument to you?
You probably could. You always ask. Sure, if you want to.
Can I make the argument to you that the offensive line could cost them games, but their quarterback will still put up pretty good numbers?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm using the Shedeur Sanders model.
I'm looking. Wow. No.
Okay.
No. More disrespect for Shedeur?
I'm not being disrespectful for Shedeur.
Dude's pretty good.
With a bad offensive line. That's what I'm saying.
So I'm not ready to anoint.
I'm saying the model, not the same.
I can't get my mind on it. I can't. That's just me.
That's fine.
That's a heck of a leap of faith. Shedeur Sanders was really good. You're gonna have to say that out loud. Dude, he
is really good. I'm the guy that was sitting here 2 months ago being like, why the hell is he going in the 5th round?
He was nice.
2nd round, I understand. 5th round, I didn't.
So I don't know if Keinholz or Sand.
I don't know if they're in that category.
They're
I
going
don't.
to be. Yeah, I don't. So,
but my point is, there is a model in which you can scheme up having pretty decent numbers as a quarterback, but it's going to cost you games because your offensive line isn't good enough.
would be more apt to think a school like Oregon could do it that has made a living with RPO and those zone concepts than Ohio State, who gets vertical in the passing game.
Fair.
Right? A lot of over routes, those sales, those PCs to, Jeremiah Smith. And listen, Tate's going to be nice. We already know about what's his buckets? Jeremiah Smith. I said, what's his buckets? The guy's the real deal. But it's like they get vertical. So I don't know. You're going to have to be able to protect the quarterback.
Are we underselling another offensive coordinator change? Third time in 3 years.
But I've said, yeah. But that's low-hanging fruit for me because I said we're making a lot of assumptions about a team that is replacing their DC and their OC.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I get it. Hartline's been there. Never been a play
hasn't
caller.
Done this.
So,
and Ryan Day gave up play calling for a reason.
And they do get vertical in the passing game quite a bit. And the thing that I wasn't really willing to concede is Ohio State was pretty good up front.
Yeah, they were.
Like that offensive line, even despite the injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little reluctant to just say a quarterback can go back there and do the darn thing. Now, you do have Jeremiah Smith, and you do have Tate, and you could easily make the case that Tate is the most undervalued skill player in the Big Ten, and he plays in Columbus. Tate is the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else is going to regurgitate that on one of their other platforms or shows, and they're going to pawn it off as their own. But Tate's legit.
Do you know how many scholarship players for Nebraska are sophomores or less?
Stop. That's childish. I was so happy you let that ride until now. Just chill.
I can't help myself. You know that about me.
God, it was a cold shot, but it happened.
It happens all the time.
I'm decent.
I will say, I'm willing to until I see it's sort of the inverse of the Indiana thing. I'm willing to give Ohio State the benefit of the doubt until they don't. I'm not willing to give Indiana the benefit of the doubt until they do.
Because
that's why I'm okay with saying it.
I do honk for honk's a little strong. I do advocate for Day.
He's better than we thought.
He's better than his critics thought.
Yeah.
I don't know who we is.
I think just the royal we.
He's better than his critics thought.
Yeah.
And I've said that from the jump. But
and listen, he might have been born on third base, but he still figured out a way to score.
I don't see. You know the funny thing about that?
I mean,
he's not telling anybody he hit a triple.
No, I get that.
And I'm telling you, maintaining
it's hard. It's a skill set.
It's difficult.
Yeah,
it's
a different skill set than building.
Yeah,
but it is a skill set. Like there's a lot of guys that couldn't do it.
You think over at 144th and Q, they don't have big shoes to fill with Wisdom leaving? And he never got his due.
Yeah,
it's
hard.
It's hard.
It is hard. I've seen it. It's
what
hard.
Wisdom was doing to control,
we've seen it. I mean,
that's hard.
We've seen it here. We saw and
I
know
that
listen, you love,
and I'm cheering for his guy, because I'm not openly rooting. Oh, Gold Miller stuff, but I have a.
You want people to be successful.
I do, and I have a certain level of appreciation for. Number one, it's a tough job because of the expectation. Number two, it's a hard act to follow. Right? One of the reasons why I admire Coach Samanji so much is
Coach Freund was really, really good.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Really good. And Samanji took it, and I mean the last 4 years have been just as good, if not better.
You know how fortunate, just to get a fresh set of eyes with that knucklehead 2020 whatever class. I just had this conversation with Caleb in the car yesterday. Was
it 2024? Is that the class?
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's that team. Like a fresh set of eyes to next level those guys' expectations with no preconceived notion.
Yeah.
Was pretty critical for some guys that thought they were pretty flipping good.
Yeah. And I mean, we've seen it here up close where
sometimes it just fits, and it's hard for those guys to do. So I give Day. I don't love the third base thing, but I understand why people say it.
So he can have been born on third base and still not be bragging about the triple, right?
I mean,
he was given everything to succeed. He still had to do it.
Would you rather have to slide in on a bang play or get in standing up?
Absolutely not.
You want to get in standing up?
Yeah,
right?
I would. Listen, I'm
not begrudging.
I would love to be born on third base. That'd be terrific.
You know
I'm
what I
not
mean?
complaining about it.
I just think sometimes we're a little disingenuous about that.
I think he inherited one of the best possible situations, but we've seen that before and people fail.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I bring up Larry Coker for different reasons, but like that thing got away from him pretty hurry.
Bill Guthridge. Like, I've seen it.
I mean, we saw it here. Like, Frank Solich couldn't sustain, and he did a good job for several years, but that's really hard to sustain. Like, you weren't going to sustain the level.
I was going to jump down your throat for being negative about Frank. It's okay.
I mean,
it's okay. That's my guy. Regardless of what anybody says.
I did want to couch it a little bit.
I'm riding with that.
But like, he had a really good success for the first handful of years, and then even though he was better than we give him credit for, like, there is a dip because you weren't going to sustain what happened from 93 to 97. Like, that wasn't a, like, Kalen DeBoer. We're seeing it with Kalen DeBoer right now. You know how I feel about Kalen DeBoer.
You think I don't have a certain level of appreciation from going from 94 to 95 to control us?
Yeah. You had some characters.
Just hard.
Yeah. I think that's accurate.
It's really hard.
But so my point, though, I don't have a huge problem with saying. I don't.
It was hard.
But the more thing doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and I know you're down on that one anyway. So
I am, but the reasoning he gave, there's probably reasoning out there that he could have given me that'd be like, okay, 2 seems high, but it's not crazy. The reasoning he gave was not good.
I thought you would be a lot happier. Shane, go to 4. Drag your little mousy McMouse thing.
Oh, I didn't forget about Dylan.
Go to 4 and see what our man
Veteran
Mr. Breneman had to say about Mr. Dylan Raiola. Liquidity?
It's still rolling.
The mic is officially yours.
Well, I'm still rolling here.
Why? It's hot. Who is he, Tupac? Picture me roll.
Nebraska, the former 5-star quarterback, second year starting for Raiola, flashes of brilliance every weekend in year 1. You could see the raw talent he has. We're going to see an even more complete player this season, and the schedule lines up for much more wins in 2025. Number 3 is Luke Altmaier.
Do you agree with that?
No, I think
we're on the schedule thing.
I think the schedule lines up for exactly as many wins as it lined up for last year. I just think they're better this year.
It's a terrible narrative.
Another Big Ten veteran leader.
It's a terrible narrative.
Yeah, no, I think it is largely the same difficulty of schedule as last year. And we don't know yet because we don't know if there's an Indiana on there that's a little sneaky or whatever. But my point is, I thought last year set itself up to have just as many wins as this year. Nebraska couldn't execute on that. How many times have we talked about, hey, if their special teams isn't just in the toilet, they have 9 wins easy. Boom. Like, it's 2 more wins automatically. Illinois and Iowa
I get the non-con because you don't see Colorado.
Sure.
But I do think Cincinnati will be more difficult than we think.
But also they beat Colorado, so what's the difference?
No, I understand.
You know what I mean?
I'm
like,
just saying the marquee.
From his standpoint.
The conference schedule.
I think it's about the same.
And you have some games where I'm like,
the UCLA USC stretch is kind of sneaky, tricky. I know Pasadena is the one you keep talking about.
You don't want to hear it, but I mean, and it's at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not tickled with where Michigan State falls after Michigan.
Sure. And I know you've got concerns about at Minnesota on a Friday night.
I have. That's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Nebraska struggled.
I don't love going to Pasadena late, which you know, especially when the 2 California teams get us off a bye. Listen, DB's being soft, or he's couching, or this, that, and the other. I'm a realist, and I don't love schedules because we see names and we all of a sudden we get enamored with predictions, and it's fine. It's the offseason. It's what people do. But you do get both Cal teams off a bye, and
I do think Michigan State at home is nice instead of having to go Michigan at home, Michigan State on the road.
I'm just telling you, SC, UCLA, Penn State, Iowa.
That's a tough stretch.
Is a ridiculous stretch.
That's a tough stretch. Now you get Penn State off a bye week, which is nice. So appreciate that.
Do you want me to tell you how comfortable I am to going to Maryland?
I would guess you're less comfortable than most. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't be, but I think most people don't even look at that game.
I just got to see it.
I think Maryland's going to be a little bit down this year. I don't know that that's a great Maryland team, but I don't look at this.
Yes, JP. The schedule is cheeseless. I am not finding a good piece of cheese in the schedule.
I don't look at this schedule and go, like, I don't think they're going to go 10-2 because I think it's an easy schedule. I think they're going to go 10-2 because I think they're good, right? So I look at these games and I go, hey, if I think this team is good, do they go win this game? And to me, the answer is yes most of the time. But if there's some of the same foibles we've seen Nebraska get caught up in years past, a lot of these games could be tricky.
Yeah. Well, so not to morph this into Nebraska schedule, I'm going to get off of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you clearly would bump San out and Moore out. Who goes in? Mendoza and
so I'm okay with saying at 5. I would definitely, the only guy I would for sure bump out is Moore.
Okay.
Mendoza would go in for me. Who do I like more than saying if I'm bumping 2? Michigan's a non-starter. Obviously.
I don't think you're riding with Chillis.
No, not yet. I mean, I don't have more reason to believe in Chillis than I do an Ohio State quarterback, just in general. Not Billy Edwards.
Not Gronowski.
No, not Gronowski. Although, like, I could hear an argument. If you want to talk about track record and things like that, like, I'd hear an argument, but it's Iowa offense, so nobody's going to make that argument, which is fine. But he's got, like, Gronowski's interesting at the very least for me. Altmaier is probably where he belongs. If you put him at 2, I wouldn't be mad.
Maava?
I'm not a big Maava fan, but
not Nico either, huh?
But I would actually take either Nico or Maava over Moore, because if you're making the argument for me and say, hey, it's Lincoln Riley, this is the guy he chose, okay, I can live with that.
That's Suave's got the graphic up. Aller, Moore, Altmaier, Raiola, San.
I would take either.
A little bit of a typo for Julian. Rico just got here.
Nico or Maava. Because Nico, I go, hey, he was actually productive at a Power 5 school last year in the SEC, comparable talent level to the Big Ten, and we think he's going to be a little bit more comfortable being close to home. I'll hear that argument. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but I'll hear that argument. I do think, and again, not a Maava guy, if you're going to just tell me, hey, Lincoln Riley's going to figure it out with his quarterback, that's basically the same argument we're making for saying, right? Is Ohio State's going to figure it out with this quarterback versus Lincoln Riley's going to figure it out with this quarterback? Yeah. So I could make that argument either way. I'm fine with that. There's nobody obviously that I would take over saying. There is somebody I would obviously take over Dante Moore. And honestly, I'd probably take Nico, Mendoza, or Maava over Dante Moore if I'm making that list.
Yeah, I see.
The Dante Moore thing doesn't make any sense to me.
I see one-score games. I see a one-score game versus Cincy. I see a one-score game versus Michigan. I see a one-score game versus Michigan State. I see a one-score game versus Maryland. I see a one-score game versus Minnesota. I see a one-score game versus SC, UCLA, and Iowa. I think all those games are one-score or are within 7 points. Call me crazy.
I mean, I'm not going to call you crazy. Like, that's what Nebraska's been doing. They've been playing one-score games. Now they've gone the wrong way more often than not, but that's what Nebraska's been doing. I think there's probably some of those that Nebraska ends up winning by more than that because, again, I just think they're good, and I think the combination of a second-year Raiola and Holgorsen is going to –
Cody's officially crazy. You know who he had the nerve enough to say I'm sleeping on?
Who?
Damon Williams.
Oh, no, you love Damon. That's your guy.
Cody.
That's your guy. You've been banging on the table for Damon Williams for
since
months.
February.
Yeah, for months.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, chill. He had like 6 good games. Relax.
Cody, no Rip Van Winkle over here, buddy. I'm probably that guy's biggest fan.
Yeah. You're the only guy I ever hear talking about him independently. And I'm like, I get it. You like Damon Williams. Yeah. Cool.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
No.
But I know you're sick of me cramming him down your throat.
And listen, you can make a Damon Williams argument better than you can make a Julian Sayin argument.
No, better than more. You could make the D-Dub argument more. Now, you wouldn't put D-Dub second.
No, but if you want to bump the list up and he's 5, that's fine. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, no Rip Van Winkle over here, Cody.
I don't have a problem with Damon Williams.
I actually think, should I take it a step further? Washington would be – who just had him 10th or 11th in the conference?
Oh, I don't remember.
Was it Phil? It might have been Phillip.
Yeah, because I think
I'm like,
it felt like
yeah,
Brett
nah.
was a little higher on him
I'm
than
like,
that.
I don't know, man.
He didn't give us a placement, but he brought him up as kind of that middle of the pack team.
Yeah.
So I think he's a little
Cianci?
higher. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's a little higher on him than Phil is. But yeah, I mean, if you want to throw Damon Williams in there, like I can look at Dante Moore and Julian Sand and be like, yeah, Damon Williams is a better case than both those guys. I'm fine with that. Like Jed Fish actually does have a history of developing quarterbacks and developing offenses and making players better.
Fafita's still waiting for Fish to come back.
I know. He's like, hey, I miss you, buddy. Can you take me with you?
Yeah. I'm like,
You think he
very interested.
Do you know how that played out? Was that a Fafita decided to stay or Fish decided not to take him?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because if Fafita decided to stay, you think he regrets that every day?
Well, he had Tet and
I get that.
He had some weapons.
I get that.
And people liked Arizona.
They did
last year.
They did.
So
I think if he had to play over again, he might have followed Fish.
What do you think happens with our man Retzlaff?
So I still think he transfers. If you're not aware, the civil suit was dropped.
Yeah.
But like I said this to you in the text last night, BYU hardlines the honor code stuff pretty aggressively.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to let up on the suspension just because the suit was dropped, because their issue wasn't the suit. It was the fact that he admitted to breaking the honor code.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I think they're going to hardline it. I really do. I don't think they're going to let
the
up.
guys in which the honor code was brought up was the whole consensual versus non-consensual thing. But did you realize how old that was?
Yeah, it's 2 years, right?
Yeah.
November 2023. Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe Retzlaff leaves on principle. Where
he's just mad at him.
Mad.
Yeah.
You know.
I honestly, maybe I'm thinking too much old school BYU. I really don't think they're going to let up on the suspension. Listen, they cost themselves a real opportunity with Jimmer as a senior when they suspended Brandon Davies. They were number 3 in the country.
Oh yeah.
When they suspended him. Like that was a legitimate final.
Precedent has clearly been set.
Yeah, like that was the second best player on a team that could have made a Final Four with the best player in the country at the time. Like if I get that's been 14 years at this point. That was like 2011, I think. But has BYU changed that much? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it to me. I don't think they're going to.
I just don't think there's another contender that needs a quarterback as a landing spot. So I do have to entertain TK's question of,
is BYU just still the best spot for him football-wise?
Or does he go FCS?
FCS is interesting. Where do you think?
I know who wouldn't take him just because of his personality, and they like what they have at
South Dakota State,
North Dakota State.
Yeah.
Now South Dakota State
might take him with Gronowski going. I know Coach Jackson well, so I thought maybe you were talking about his personality.
I think,
but with losing Gronowski, like maybe make that phone call.
And their best athlete is at quarterback, but he is extremely unproven in Brookings.
You know what Retzlaff would do at the FCS level?
I know.
I know, I'm not being disrespectful.
That's why TK wanted his stats.
Listen, TK, if he goes to the FCS, you are not getting those stats. I'm gonna.
I do appreciate him lobbying, though.
No, I get it. Group of 5, I'll think about it. Probably still a no.
So do we go to the extra quarterback thing?
I mean,
over injury, how are we handling injuries?
Do you get an extra quarterback if somebody goes out for the year? No.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I don't know, man. I feel like we may have to do TK a solid.
Feel like he needs to do better.
You let Shane pick a golfer that was 4 strokes in the lead on a Thursday.
That's fine.
It's because it's Shane.
And not only that, his last pick, you didn't even make be a long shot. He got to take Fleetwood. And you're going to hold TK hostage?
Too bad.
We'll see where he lands.
And Shane won.
We'll see where he lands.
It's not fair.
You don't even like the guy, and you let him get away with bloody murder.
Who said I don't like Shane?
Well, you're mean to him.
I'm mean to everybody.
That's true.
Oh, come on, don't be dramatic.
Although, you know who you're not mean to?
Who?
Rico.
Oh, I love Rico.
Which is silly.
I'm mean to Rico all the time, though, in the office. You just don't see it.
Oh, look, he's vouching.
Rico, am I mean to you?
You're just a Richard head to begin with. I wouldn't call it mean.
No,
There's varying degrees.
Oh, yeah, there are. But if you're like, oh, everybody you're mean to, you don't like, then you wouldn't think I like anybody. I like a lot of people. I'm just mean to everybody.
Can I ask you one more question about this? Because we heard very little about the OC quarterback relationship in that list. Under or overstated?
I think it's understated.
Yeah.
That was my whole argument with Dante Moore. Like we're just assuming Will Stein is going to turn him into Dylan Gabriel or Bo Nix
or Kirk Campbell at Michigan or
like no.
It's very, very, very interesting.
You know,
and part of my reason for being so excited about DR is Dana.
100%. I mean, do you not remember like a month ago I'm like, he's never not been good at this? I'm pounding on the table. Like, that is a huge part of this with Dylan. And with my thinking Nebraska is going to go 10-2.
Moore is an incredible leap of faith.
I think it's a blind leap into nothingness. Like, you're as likely to splat on the rocks as you are to get caught by anything.
Splat on the rocks.
Like,
all I can think of is Equalizer 2, where the storm is going in the cod and the dude's eyeball is dangling out and he hits the rocks down below.
That seems
splat.
Seems aggressive.
It was a great movie.
Actually,
it wasn't great. It was good. It wasn't great.
TK
Equalizer
said,
1, the greatest. Equalizer 3, greater than 2.
Oh, you like 3 greater than 2?
Yeah.
TK says, give me that SDSU natty.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you FCS stats. We'll see where he lands, but you're not getting FCS stats.
That would be a tough move for Coach Jackson because I do think his best athlete is playing quarterback.
Yeah. But is his best quarterback playing quarterback? That's a good question. I mean,
here we are just hypothetically spitballing Retzloff to Brookings.
You never know. You never know.
I've just there's no contenders that need a quarterback.
Depends on how Tennessee feels about Joey Aguilar.
Well,
would you like?
Here's the funny thing about that. Yeah. I think they feel pretty good because they were willing to be very dismissive of Nico. They ain't even entertained playing the game. They're like, bye.
But do you?
And it wasn't Felicia. It was Phillip. Bye, Phillip.
Would you take Retzloff over Aguilar?
I don't know. I think we're kind of misremembering Retzloff's numbers. He's good.
He's good, but he's 20-12 guy.
Yeah.
Like he's good. But it's a guy that can produce at a power conference level.
Don't get it twisted. It's July.
Yeah. We're late. We're
super. Hey, Nebraska opens camp in 3 weeks.
Sun's getting real low. Yeah, we're up against it. Yeah. I'm just saying, if I'm Michigan.
No way. Garcia just got there.
You really want to start Jake Garcia? Nobody else does. That's why he was available.
I don't know why you take him then.
Because you
don't like Keene?
Because you don't like your quarterback situation. If you're at a point where you're going to take a flyer on Jake Garcia because you don't think Underwood's ready and you don't think Keene can do it, then why not take a flyer on a guy that you know can?
What if Moore and Underwood just take the world by storm? We're like, man, this offseason was a lot of wind blowing.
Yeah, it's like the biggest smokescreen in history. That'd be funny. Good for them.
He might be.
Moore might have some other things on his plate with the suspension coming up, though. He may not be quite dialed in the way you'd like him to be.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. We can start asking some questions of somebody else here. We're going to talk to Bill Bender here from the Sporting News at 8 o'clock. At 8:30, we're going to talk to Martie Cordaro, the president of the Omaha Storm Chasers. Seems like he's just the president of Omaha, but I think it's just technically the Storm Chasers.
Hey, Shane, where was our main show graphic? We went right to Hell Varsity and Hurrdat. Where's our original graphic? We only had 2 this morning.
I don't know. We're going to talk to Mike Schaefer at 9 o'clock, though, Husker 24/7.
Well, what happened to it?
I don't know what happened to it.
We got both these yahoos here. Who else is responsible? Sasha?
I don't know. They're banging on the –
Look, they're diming her out. They're like, oh, yeah, this old SD.
Immediately threw Sasha under the bus.
Rico's like, who, me?
Rico's like, I never did anything wrong.
Well, man's over there like Teflon. Teflon Don over there.
Hey, Rico, show him how you dodge it.
Bobbing and he said, funniest thing ever. He said, ooh, it's so hot. Ooh.
It's like ghost pepper.
Yeah. Ooh,
it's habanero.
Hot. All right, buddy.
All right, coming up here in just a little bit, we'll talk to Bill Bender from the Sporting News. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's Hurrdat Sports Live.
hot sauce, no pico, give me that.
That's a great question, and I thought it would have been asked a lot earlier. Listen, I'll say this: there's a lot of unanswered questions as this thing will progress. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad the case was finally settled, and now we can move on with our lives. At least for the rules that we've heard. We had our league meetings in LA. We talked to our commissioner a lot about how this thing was going to take place. Talked to Troy Dannon in leadership of our athletic program about what to expect. And, listen, from everything we understand, revenue sharing is going to be the main source for these guys now. The true NIL deals are going to have to go through the clearinghouse that's run by a very reputable company with Deloitte. And, we'll see how that all plays out on what a fair market value is for somebody to be approved an NIL deal. But until we see, a deal that's rejected, which I don't think that's happened yet, what exactly the parameters are within an NIL deal getting approved.
We're in the neighborhood, just down the street. With a wide variety of home equity products to help you create a relaxing oasis. So you can kick back and relax in comfort. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
A lot of pace, definitely like high IQ. Feel like you really can't be as selfish a little bit. Like I said, just setting up other players. When I first got into the role, obviously it was a little nerves, my first time playing it, so I just had to go through that, the good and bad, and just take all that and, kind of just implement it now. Really.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
I have a question.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live.
No, I have a question.
Presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. What's up? What's your question?
Hi, Centris Federal Credit Union.
What's your question?
You need some financing, a car, vehicle, your house. Just take out a loan. Go speak to our nice, kind folks at
CentrusFCU.org.
Yeah.
Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
I was going to make fun of you, but I cut you off, so
no, go ahead.
Very fitting. Why are we so big?
What do you mean?
Like, how's your camera on the stream? Why am I
That
big?
looks normal.
What's wrong with mine? You think I want to see myself like that?
Oh, it hit
something.
It's
I don't know what exit. Get out of there.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing.
Looking huge.
I think you just blew up your screen there for no reason.
Yeah, that happens. That happens.
We good? We get it figured out?
All right, my man Jared's in.
J-Rod.
Everybody's in. We're missing a few. We're missing my man JMP. We're missing who's my other funny guy? Cornflicted. You know who was a kind of a low key menace?
Who?
Kamala.
Oh, I've only seen him
He
in there a
comes.
couple times.
He flashes in.
Johnny Pig says it's all the protein. That's why you're so big, getting all swelled up.
Actually, just the opposite. Freaking teeny weeny. Shane, how far are we from B2?
I think he's calling him right now. We'll get to Bill Bender here from the Sporting News in just a
Working
second.
on it.
Working on it. I got a couple quick. Oh, there he is. That's my man. He said, I'm just lurking. That's my dude.
Cornflicted. We like Cornflicted. Just lurking out there in the fields.
I told you why.
Why?
He clearly can get in the weeds with sports.
Oh, yeah. He's got some.
I need a weed guy. Not for my crabgrass. I'm just saying, like, I need a guy that can get in the weeds.
When you said I need a weed guy, nobody thought crabgrass, man.
We have Bill here.
I'm on record though. That's not my jam. Not even close.
Let's get Bill Bender from the Sporting News covering college football with us in here. Bill, how are you this morning? Bill, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Bill, it's very fitting. It is the 1st of July, and I'm ready for some hot takes. So a guy that, you're typically kind of in the middle, a little Switzerland-y. I have some hard questions for you right out of the gates.
Okay.
All right, you ready? If you're going to operate in the unknown of a first-year starter in a program, you pushing your chips towards Moore up there in Eugene or Sand winning the job in Columbus?
Probably the guy in Columbus because he gets to throw to Jeremiah and Carnell Tate.
Fair.
I think that's the easiest.
Rather than hand it off to McHale?
I mean, that's pretty good too. And you're in an offense with Dan Lanning where, the last two transfer quarterbacks played very well. So track record's there. But I just think Ohio State, Sayin played well in the spring game. Lincoln Keenholtz improved. I don't know that he'll win the starting job. And then you have the thing with Julian Sayin, though, is he's going to have to look over his shoulder at Tavion St. Clair, a 5-star freshman. You guys know that everybody loves that 5-star freshman and can't wait to see him on the field. That's just how this game works. So, but I would go with the Ohio State quarterback because I get to throw to Jeremiah, and that's, 15 touchdowns right there.
Are you buying into the Dante Moore experiment if Oregon is truly going to be plug and play with Coach Lanning?
I do, because I think there's something to be said about the patience. Not Dante's a 5-star guy, and he was, he probably played a little too early at UCLA, and he's had a year to sit and watch behind Gabriel and watch that Oregon offense work. And in the limited sample that he played well. Good size, NFL body, and the talent's there. So I do trust that. It's not like by me saying Julian Sayin, I'm not saying I don't believe in Dante Moore. I think he's going to have a big year too.
Do you think with Dante Moore that they're going to have to adjust the offense a little bit with Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel both? You're looking at super precise timing, accuracy,
70%.
Yeah, I think the lowest completion percentage over the last 3 years has been 72%, which is ridiculous. Like, that's not, and again, we only have a smaller sample size a couple years ago with Dante Moore. That doesn't really seem to be in his wheelhouse in terms of how he plays. Are you concerned at all, or do you think at all that they're going to have to change things around a little bit to optimize his skill set?
I think they will either way. I mean, he doesn't run as much as Gabriel and Nix either.
And he's kind of slight.
He's real slight. Like, not sure how many hits you want him to take.
Right. So I don't know that they're going to take the extra. I don't have Dylan's rushing attempts in front of me, but Dylan ran less last year than he did at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's true.
But the key to that whole RPO game is that threat, though. So that will be interesting to see if they still stay with it, because that's kind of how you get the balloon completion percentages.
Correct. And I think that's what I'm watching with Dante is I think his accuracy in that, but like you said, the RPO, the zero, that the chart I always look at in Pro Football Focus quarterbacks, and I've probably said it on here before, is all those guys can complete passes 0 to 9 yards. And certain quarterbacks are a little bit better on the deep ball, 20 plus, that 10 to 19 range that I always look at. Okay, who can actually pitch? You know, can you fit the windows in that intermediate passing game? And that'll be the key for Dante Moore. That was what able to do very well in that offense right away. So I think if Dante Moore can do that, Oregon, most preseason publications, they're the third wheel right now behind Ohio State and Penn State. And that feels about right for now. And they don't play Ohio State this year. So, I think Oregon's going to be right back in that Big Ten mix.
I'm curious about two guys that played last year at a power conference level that transferred into the Big Ten and who you like to fit better with. I'm going to give you Nico Yamaleva and Fernando Mendoza. Which one of those two is most appealing to you?
Well, I think Fernando steps into I like him, by the way, in general. He's tough. You saw him play at Cal. He plays with a lot of passion. You can tell he cares, improved. And he goes to a place where they've played with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder with Curt Cignetti. Now, given the choice, I'll take Nico Iamaleava. And I think, here's why first impressions aren't always the worst thing. Remember Big Ten Media Day last year? Everybody was making fun of Deshaun Foster.
Yep, he missed
on his words a little bit.
Yeah, there's two. They're located in Los Angeles. Yeah, I remember.
Right. Yeah. So breakout, So at his breakout session, you got a few clues about who he really is. Like you could tell, players coach. Maybe he doesn't love being in front of the media as much. Who else didn't? Like Bill Belichick.
Yep.
Okay. So not comparing the two, but I'm just saying UCLA finished 5-7 last year, and if you watched them, they competed. They lost to LSU. They lost to Penn State.
And they get a stud back at wide receiver.
Correct. And then I think Nico is one of the top third quarterbacks in the Big Ten. You could say he's probably top 5. So
interesting.
Long-winded way of saying I like Deshaun Foster. I like Nico. I don't know if they're Big Ten championship worthy, but I think they're going to be a tough out.
Interesting. So if I give you Aller, Altmaier, Mendoza, Raiola, Maeva, Nico, San, you still top 5 for Nico in the new conference. There's some fellas. I didn't even mention Moore.
Bryce Underwood, who we're like, we'll see what his talent is.
Yeah.
But I think Bryce is going to have a similar trajectory to Raiola last year, where there'll be flashes of, you'll be like, wow, that talent's amazing, but there'll be some ups and downs. And I think that was a fair way to look at Raiola last year, and he'll take that next step. Altmaier, you mentioned him, that's a 3-year starter, 10-win guy. And in that Illinois offense should be pretty good as well. Drew Aller, who he's the most polarizing quarterback probably in the Big Ten, depending on who you ask. You look at his numbers, you're like, wow. You see his leadership skills, great kid. He's just got, like everything else at Penn State, he's just got to go out and beat the Buckeyes. Once he does that, I think, everything will fall into place. There were articles about Drew Aller ahead of that Notre Dame game saying NFL scouts would like him as first rounder this year. And I was kind of, I don't know. So I'm on the fence with him. I could see it going either way for Drew Aller this year.
So here's the thing about Bryce, and I get your dab smack up there in that part. The thing, the reports so far, if you're kind of a tea leaf guy, haven't been glowing. Garcia comes in late in June. How much of it has to do with the relationship between Campbell, your OC, a young quarterback, and, Michigan outside the numbers? It would help to have some help in quarterbacks' development, right? Either like guys to give the ball to or guys you're receiving instruction from. How much of the consternation, hand-wringing in Arbor has to do with those two unproven commodities?
I don't understand the lack of catching options at Michigan, and I always throw this stat out, and it's true. They have not had a first-round receiver since Braylon Edwards.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Now, some of that was they went to Rich Rod, and that offense is different. It's not like Jeremy Gallen wasn't good at Michigan. He had a good career.
And there's a guy in Pittsburgh I hope is pretty good that used to play at Michigan too, in Roman. So
yeah, Roman could play, right?
Yeah.
So Roman's good, but he wasn't first round good.
Yeah.
And
we're not
right
counting
now,
Loveland.
that was right. Like they've got the tight end. Yeah, true. They did have a first round tight end. But the receivers last year, I think their leading receiver had less than 300 yards. So yes, Bryce Underwood's going to need guys to throw to that aren't the tight end. And that'll be something to watch this year as we get into it. But I think the talent's there. I was talking to a source about him last Friday, and they said, great kid, great, like makeup. And the thing he'll have to deal with, which every quarterback does, is, that's Michigan you're playing at, where the fans, man, there is no waiting period. Chad Henne didn't have that waiting period. He had to play well right away as a freshman. You are criticized and under a lot of scrutiny when you are the starting quarterback at Michigan.
How about how they drilled or grilled Drew Henson? Like the list is long.
Well, Tom Brady, right? Like they didn't want Tom Brady to start, so that he did okay after. But it is in place the way that they break down those quarterbacks, and you have the unenviable task as well of J.J. McCarthy lived up to those expectations when he was there. Last year, the quarterback play was not great. That's an understatement. It was not good. And they need Bryce to come in and play well right away. And that's why I compared him to Dylan, because you're seen perceived as this like program-changing quarterback, but you have to understand, and I think with Dylan, we're going to see so much better this year. Matt Rhule was talking about it at Big Ten Media Day last year, where as a freshman, you're going to make mistakes, and they want to live with those mistakes, and Michigan's going to have to live with theirs this year.
Yeah, we saw 3 seasons from Dylan last year and year one and a quarter with Holgorsen should help immensely, because Holgerson's never not been good at this.
Right, and I think again, who's catching the football? Are the interceptions? I think Coach Rhule said something about that last year that stuck with me, is like, you can look at a web page and it says 12 interceptions, but what were those 12 interceptions? Did somebody run what Matt can do is he'll say, the receiver didn't tuck the ball in, or he ran the wrong route, and they're looked at differently. But I do think they need to cut down turnovers as usual. And if Dylan can do that and continue to build on the moments that he had last year, where you watch him and you're like, man, that guy, that's a difference maker at quarterback. I think Nebraska could be one of those teams that ascends in the middle tier. We talk about it in Columbus all the time. I get asked about it. People here were so impressed with how Nebraska played Ohio State for 4 quarters last year. And that was a game right down to the end. And not many people do that in Ohio Stadium. I know Nebraska isn't more.
Remember those guys were leaving and booing, and I was right that front row seat for that one. And
so, like I said, I know you guys don't do moral victories, but that just showed me that Matt Rhule's pushing it a little bit closer. If you can get a little bit closer, because Ohio State's the standard that everybody gets judged by in this conference.
For you, legit, not legit, or will you actually make the pick? Who's more on the hot seat, in your opinion, deservedly so, DeBoer or Kelly?
That's a great question. Because those are the two. I'll make a pick, but I'm going to take a second to. I would say Kalen's under more pressure, because it's just so hard to follow a guy like Nick Saban.
Is it deserved? Or is that a different conversation? Okay.
Well, kind of, because they lost to Vanderbilt.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
You can't do that. Right? Like, I'm trying to think.
Your delivery was hilarious.
Yes. Right. So I'd have to go back and look at Frank's first year after Tom Osborne, and like the comparison would be, and I know they didn't, but let's say Frank
9-3
first year would have lost to Kansas.
Yeah, or lost to Pitt or Maine,
Yeah, like somebody you're like, what? Like that Vanderbilt loss was eye-opening, and losing 4 games, and they're just not used to doing that. Now Kelly's a different kind of heat. It's the fit, it started with some like cringy moments, and then they lose 4 games last year. They don't like losing 4 games either. And they need to learn how to schedule an opener, because they're coming right out of the gate and playing Clemson at Clemson. So I use this stat all the time. They haven't won an opener since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys know this as college football fans. What do college football fans want to be more than anything else? They want to be 1-0.
Yep.
They want to win that first game when excitement for the season is so high. You've got to go get that one. And here they are going to Clemson and Death Valley. It's going to be brutal. So answer's still Kalen, but it's close.
Do you think there is legitimate heat on Brian Kelly this year, though? Like, I don't know. I sit here from the outside and I go, hey, hasn't really done –
weird for a two-time coach of the year, right?
Really,
Well,
it seems like – sorry, go ahead. Like, I'll let you finish.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I was just going to say it seems like Marcus Freeman is an upgrade at Notre Dame, and that ever since Brian Kelly left Notre Dame, for the reasons that –
well, he sure has debunked the recruiting myth.
For reasons that Marcus Freeman has really been like, yeah, that's actually not true here. It seems like Brian Kelly has struggled with quite a bit of options and weapons and everything in the cupboard he could ask for at LSU. Like, how real do you think it is that Brian Kelly probably needs to make the playoff this year?
Well, we put our playoff projections out last week, and we didn't do it on purpose, but I kind of smiled when I had it set up that way. I was like, hey, can you imagine if LSU goes to South Bend for the first round?
So is LSU in your preseason top 10, Bill?
11.
Okay.
Or 9 or 10. Yeah, they're there. And that's why, because they worked the portal and he has a roster and he has a quarterback and he doesn't have a lot of excuses. So if you imagine a world where LSU goes like 9-3 or 10-2, which is possible. If they get that Clemson victory, they're going to be in good shape. Then they go and play Notre Dame in the first round. And then all of those things you said come to life. Marcus Freeman's relatable. That's the big thing with him. He made, we wrote this article a couple times last year, he made Notre Dame likable, which is very hard to do. He has fans. We make the joke all the time. I said, the wives like him because he's an attractive guy. He's young, energetic. He's recruiting, like you said. He's recruiting like crazy. And I think Notre Dame's here to stay with him. So imagine if they get a swing at LSU, the build-up around that game would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm still looking at the buyout numbers to see if he winds up in Pittsburgh if Tomlin doesn't win a first-round playoff game. I love both guys, so that would be something I would more than willingly swap over. But no sense in penciling in Freeman and Steeltown. Just do your work, Mike Tomlin.
Well, and the other one, like, if you don't mind, they'll have him around here in Columbus. So, like, I'm not saying Ryan Day would ever leave, but when the Ryan Day pressure mounts, let's say, had Ryan Day and Ohio State lost to Tennessee last year, had that happened, there would have been a lot of people around Columbus saying, why can't we get Marcus Freeman? Which is the great irony that, Ryan Day just beat Marcus Freeman in the national championship game, but I mean, he's well-liked in Ohio, but at the same time, at the title game last year, the pregame buildup, he was not dismissive because he's polite, but he was, he's like, I'm the coach at Notre Dame. I haven't been to I'm going to recruit Ohio, and I love my time at Ohio State, but he was very definitive about, like, I'm the coach at Notre Dame. This is where I'm at.
So, Bill, I wonder if you get the sense, because I get that Ryan Day just beat Marcus Freeman. I get that they just won a national championship. Like, is it crazy that there's probably some Ohio State fans that would still take Marcus Freeman over Ryan Day?
I had to explain to my editor, he's a Vandy grad. So this is the second time I've talked about Vandy on this segment. But when I would tell him all year, and I've grown up here, lived here my whole life, or most of my life, and I said, there's a large population of Buckeye fans that would rather beat Michigan than win the national title.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're crazy, you're this, you're that. And just that couple weeks in between, I was like, he calls me one night. He says, hey, I was out at a tennis, he plays tennis. He said, I was playing tennis last night, and this guy with the Ohio State hat was talking to him. And he said, and I asked him your question. He said, yeah, I beat Michigan, no question. Like, he goes, I'm starting to believe it. I was like, I know it's different here because that rivalry is different than everything else. I know people have rivalries. I get it. But in Columbus, that's the priority. Now, that said, it did win a national title, and it did feel great. And I think it took a lot of pressure off of Ryan Day going into the season. But can you guys imagine if they go 11-0, and then they go right back up to Ann Arbor, and they lose. And then that's 5 in a row, and that hasn't happened since I'd like the 20s. So, I mean, that would be one. That's one that Ohio State has to have this year.
Talking with the great Bill Bender, all things college football. Bill, let me ask you something. I try to ask our smart national guys the perception of the ACC and on the heels of the AQs and who gets in and, you know, the different formulas. I did a little unscientific poll a couple months ago about Clemson, Florida State, and Miami. You know, could they all be good at the same time? Could that be 3 AQs? And history says I'm wrong, that they can't all be good at the same time. So if there's going to be a new kid on the block and you got to buy some stock, you go into the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Rhett Lashley and SMU, or you go into Chapel Hill with Belichick in North Carolina?
I'll probably go to SMU because I think that market and that new space, and you have a good coach. Rhett did a good job with those guys last year, and they used the portal effectively. I mean, they had guys on the defensive line that could play, and they have fun offense. Now, North Carolina's an experiment. You know, they should be – they've always been – Ryan McGee wrote about that last year. It's just that always kind of 8-5, 9-4, 7-6 type program, and they haven't had the coach push them to the next level. Mac got them close. Mac had 2 NFL quarterbacks there, and Sam Howell and Drake May. So, you know, I would probably go SMU, though. I think they could be an every year in the mix type program. You bringing up an interesting point about, you know, I was asked, like, how is it that Florida State, and Miami, like, 2 of those 3 should be superpowers? But what happened is Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson have pulled so many recruits from that state that, you know, that's, you know, Alabama, Georgia is kind of like what Miami, Florida State used to be. A couple of weeks ago, we did that top 25 rivalries in college football, and you know, people like me that grew up in the 90s are like, I just kept staring at it. I'm like, I really have Miami and Florida State number 17, really? That used to be like number 2, number 1 in some cases.
Did you have Florida State on there at all?
Yeah, it was in the teams as well.
Okay.
So you're like, these were must-see events, and now they're just, you know, I always tell the story. I said, it was either last year or the year before that. It was a college football Saturday, and I'm flipping through the games, and my routine as usual, I went across whatever channel, and I said, oh, Miami, Florida State's on today. That wouldn't have been the case when I was 17. It would have been, I was like literally in Ohio, the game, we had our practice or Saturday practice in the morning, and then it was, we're going to a buddy's house. We all crowded in a basement and watched Florida State, Miami, because you were kind of watching an NFL game at the time.
Bill, let me ask you something here, Bill. Which one are you more comfortable kind of predicting from a success standpoint? You going to take Arch Manning's development with Sarkisian, or kind of the trio of Stockton, Bobo, and Kirby in Athens?
I like Arch. I think Sark, and I talked to Peyton Manning about this a couple weeks ago. He talked to us about his show on the History Channel, and then I snuck in some Arch questions. And I think the point resonated that he has the same coordinator, same coach as he had all 3 years. And that helped with his development. Now, and I do think that matters. I thought Gunnar Stockton played well in the bowl game, and with experience, he'll be fine. But who's catching the ball there? That was a huge problem for them.
Yeah, the case of the old dropsies.
They did, and that didn't help Carson Beck. And then, you know, for Arch, I know they got Wingo. I know they've got pass-catching options. They lost some to the draft, no doubt. But I think he'll do well there. And, you know, the appetite for Arch is obviously really high. And I think it's almost impossible to deliver at that point. But I think if he plays 2 seasons at Texas, which is the rumor, you know, that you'll get even more in the second year. And the Mannings have shown time and again, that is a patient family. They will let the process play out. They're not in a hurry.
We're talking with Bill Bender here from the Sporting News. Bill, we've been talking a lot about offensive coordinators and quarterback and how that combination we think will have an outsized importance on the way the college football season plays out, considering how much volatility it appears there might be here. Obviously, Arch and Sark get consideration there, more on the prowess of Sark at this point and the potential of Arch. But is there a quarterback coordinator, or we'll call it play caller, because obviously some of the head coaches call them, is there a combination that you're particularly either enamored with or intrigued by this season?
Well, I mean, like we talked about Arch and Sark, that'll be a lot of fun. I just think the continued development of Cade Klubnik at Clemson, it sneaks up on you that he had 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions last season. Really good year. And now, can he put it together against some SEC schools? Struggled a little bit against South Carolina and Georgia, obviously. Now, a lot of guys do, but I mean, those are the games that are for the perception of him. I read a headline the other day that, probably a little misleading. It said something to the effect of Cade Klubnik was a generational quarterback. I wouldn't go that far. I just think he's a 3-year starter with a ton of experience. With Garrett Riley, got comfortable last year. Before that Louisville game, they were humming. They were scoring a ton of points. And I do think Clemson's pretty loaded this year. So he's probably the one that, can he be that? We talked about it earlier, is he that Heisman guy? Can he be that guy that kind of pushes to the forefront there? And it's certainly possible.
They're mock drafts. I mean, they got to have 4 or 5 guys in the first 2 rounds. I mean, that's a fantastic roster right now for Clemson. So 2 more for me, Bill, and we'll get you out of here. For all the talent, you speak about quarterback development and, quarterback talent prowess. Dillingham and Leavitt, they're not flying under the radar, but for as good as they were a year ago, and for bringing 17 guys back, why aren't they more the consensus choice in what appears to be a very wide open Big 12, even with the Retzloff news?
Yeah, I love it. Well, Cam's gone. So, can he do it without that reliable workhorse behind him? I think they'll be fine there. He has Jordan Tyson back. Sam Leavitt's fun. He's fun to watch. He's mobile. He's got really good escapability, throws the ball well. Took us all by surprise last year. And Kenny Dillingham, much like you got to trust him like you do Dan Lanning. And I think if that continues, they'll be very good. The thing with the Big 12, though, is there are other quarterbacks I like a lot.
It's the deepest quarterback conference. Maybe not at the top, but it's the deepest quarterback conference, in my opinion.
Correct, because all of those guys can play. Like Josh Hoover had a big year. Sawyer Robertson had a big year.
That's my dark horse.
Like he really closed the season strong. Avery Johnson is a dual threat quarterback. He can play. Jalen Daniels is still around. Rocco Beck, those guys have been there for a while. So yeah, the quarterback play will go a long way in determining who wins that Big 12. And I think it's the most exciting conference because of that parity and that unknown factor. That really, they capitalized on that last year. And granted, they had Shedeur and Travis Hunter in Colorado on top of it, but that could continue this year, no doubt.
I think I could see whatever the math guy. It's math adjacent, so I'm going to obviously struggle, but the top 10 could fluctuate mightily in the first 4 or 5 weeks of college football. I'd wait on the rankings. But having said that, is this the most unsure you've been at the top since when, if in fact you're pretty unsure?
Yeah. No. I think the top 7, State, Texas, Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame.
Penn State.
The Penn State, obviously. And that top 6 or 7, pretty good. Now, a lot of them have new quarterbacks, which adds to the mix. But, you learn to trust. I think a lot – I'll put it to you this way. I'd be stunned if 50% of the playoff isn't the same, at least. 50% of the playoff teams aren't the same. And that's the Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Georgia, Texas types. And every year Notre Dame gets in, they take one from somebody else.
Who wins the Big 12?
I picked Arizona State, so I'm going to ride with that. And I'm with you. I mean, because of that Leavitt combination, I like their schedule, and I think they will put together another good season there. And it's close though. You could pick a BYU, you could pick Kansas State, Iowa State. That Kansas State, Iowa State game will go a long way in determining.
I don't know. Texas Tech and Baylor are going to be a problem for somebody. They're going to be a thorn in the side of some of these favorites. Baylor may have the best quarterback wide receiver combo that no one talks about down there in Waco.
Right, and I think the way that Sawyer Robertson closed the season, you got to look at him and definitely that they're going to be in the mix. And what an opener they have against Auburn. So yeah, it can only get here fast enough.
That's our guy, Bill Bender, Sporting News. We appreciate the time as always, Bill. I'm sure we will talk again over the coming weeks and months as the football season gets underway. We appreciate the time as always.
Always appreciate you, B2. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, enjoy Media Day. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.
You got it.
That's Bill Bender from the Sporting News. Don't forget, if you're out on the roads this morning, make sure you've got that seatbelt fastened and make it click. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only when worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Coming up next, Martie Cordaro, president of the Omaha Storm Chasers, here on Hurrdat Sports Live.
Imagine your first dream home and the feeling of walking inside for the first time. With Centrist Federal Credit Union's First Time Home Buyers program, you are at the doorstep of bringing your vision to life. Welcome home. From your neighborhood mortgage experts, Centrist Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Back comes in, she makes the catch, and it's a chance for a game-winning double play. That's how it ends. The Arkansas Razorbacks are headed back to Super Regionals.
What kind of goes through your mind as you're preparing to give that final speech?
It's the worst speech of all time because you don't want to rehearse it because then it sounds like you knew it was coming.
It was 12-0. Like we were kind of anticipating, okay, like this is gonna end tonight. Like nobody wants it to, but it's going to.
10, 20 years down the road, the wins and losses, you don't remember them. All the success is great and it is very memorable, and those are part of the good memories. But I think the time we have together on the bus, in the locker room, at practice, on the field, are what lasts a lifetime.
Where you gonna go when the shit breaks? You just go out there and you look those kids in their eyes and try to articulate to them how much they mean to you and this program. And then when you finish and you stand there and watch everybody, and it's hard. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Exciting on the field stuff. What's been your favorite moment on the field or something, a certain act that you guys have done, what would you say?
Obviously, my most exciting is my 4-1-1, my dance. When I do my dance during the game, that's the most exciting part for me. But we've had some amazing people come out and play for the Bananas. We've had Dirks Bentley, which that guy's amazing in his own right. He's so humble, such a great guy, and I can't wait to hang out with him after the season's over. But we've had major league players come out and just like, man, this is the most fun I've had on a baseball field ever. And these are guys that won World Series. Like they feel the energy, they bring their family gets to see them do something again. So it's really special.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Reminder that kids eat free today with the purchase of an adult entree. Get out to Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by our friend, the president of the Omaha Storm Chasers, Martie Cordaro. Martie, how are you this morning?
You know, I'm well. I am well. It sounds like I need to be where you guys are so I can get a free meal today, kids' meal.
Absolutely, you do.
Wait. Stop the press. And I'm sure you're not a huge TikTok guy, but I follow one of these guys that's been doing. I follow one of these guys that's been doing food reviews in the New Orleans area, and he is killing the food scene, which I think is blasphemous because you're in Louisiana now, and I know you're eating good in the neighborhood, so you can just knock it off. All right, listen, you cut it out.
I have been. I told my parents last night. I said, "Look, I usually eat 2 meals a day if I'm lucky, just from on my feet all the time. You guys are killing me with these 3 full, heavy meals." But no, it's been good. I haven't been back home in a little over 2 years, and just got a quick weekend trip flying back to Omaha tonight. And yeah, it's been good though. Yeah, good food down here and good people.
What's the go-to? Is it the breakfast boudin? Is it the crawfish with the heads on? Like what's MC's go-to when he's back in the neighborhood?
It's not really crawfish season right now. If I'd have been here in March, April, May, absolutely. But
wow,
no,
picky.
I did have some crawfish at Buffet, and I've had fried catfish. I've had grilled shrimp. I have had some boudin balls, and yeah, it's been a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Are you a big beignets guy?
Yeah.
I am, but my parents are northern Louisiana, so I'm about 6 hours away from Cafe Du Mont or any of those spots.
You're Ruston, right?
Yeah, Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, home of Terry Bradshaw.
I knew he was a Louisiana Tech guy. I didn't know if you were from Ruston or if you just went there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, from Ruston. My parents still live here, and went to high school and school here, and that was good. I think Troy Evers just caught another pass.
Wow. Wow. Shout out to my man Erwin Sweeney. What a hater. Gosh, Marty. Hey, I do have a question though. Is like the North Louisiana, South Louisiana similar to the NoCal, SoCal mantra where it's just like
two different
opposites?
places?
It is. I tell people if I meet other people from Louisiana, they're from south of Alexandria. That's kind of the cutoff.
Okay.
They'll say, "Oh no, you're from a different LA." I'm like, "Okay, I've heard the lower Arkansas joke my entire life," and so it is. It is 2 different states. It really, really should be, and not just from a food perspective, but it's just different culture. More Catholic churches in the South, more Protestant churches in the North, and it's just different. It's different, but different doesn't mean bad, and I think we need to remember that as a society.
Marty, you're one of 2 people that I know and that I consider friends that are graduates of the great Louisiana Tech University. I'm not saying it's a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
Well, I don't. Maybe I should beat the other person if they're in Omaha.
You should. So he is one of the powerlifting greats from Louisiana Tech University. Good friend of mine.
Dr. Billy Jack Towson just died last week.
Yep.
Nice pull.
Yep.
Jeez.
Who started that program, and for quite some time they were the number one powerlifting team in the country.
Yeah.
And
what a pull.
Yeah, and Dr. Billy Jack was awesome. I was fortunate to have him as one of my professors on my second tour of duty when I went back to finish my marketing degree, and he was a great guy. I had not seen him in years, but he just passed last week.
You know what's funny, and I hate to take you away from the Chasers, but you dropped Billy Jack. So I put those two things together. I used to be big into following powerlifting and stuff like that, but then I was also, growing up as a kid, a big Billy Jack guy. So it's just interesting how the old Oklahoman and the Ruston guy have both fit into my life. What a weird pull. Golly, MC, you're just a Rolodex.
We're all connected. We're all connected, baby.
All right, so how excited are you for the weekend, obviously the 4th, and it's going to be a long stretch here all week with Iowa, just maybe changing locations. You looking forward to getting back?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, our team has played a little bit better over the last couple of weeks, and, you know, we're just hoping for a little consistency. And what I mean by that is, you know, if the Royals can continue to pitch as they have, and the offense has shown some signs of life, you know, in the last, 5 or 6 games, you know, that's going to give Jersh a little bit more of a consistent lineup here in Omaha. Hopefully not as much change. But look, Iowa Cubs only come to town 9 times this year.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had the 6, about a month ago, and we welcome them for the back half of this 6, tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday over in Iowa, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Omaha. So if you're a Cubs fan, and I know there are a couple of you that are out there in the metro area, this is your chance to see some really good prospects. You know, the Cubs obviously are playing well at the big league level, and they've got a lot of good talent, in the minors as well. So come out and, and obviously a big show, FNBO Fireworks, 57th annual. It's crazy how time rolls on, but 57th straight year we've had, the big fireworks show here in the metro area dating back to 1969.
Marty, so obviously you've got the big fireworks coming out. You do a lot of the great family friendly like giveaways and events and things like that. But I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was out there when Jack Caglione made his all too brief appearance in Omaha, and I was just it'd probably been I guess about a year since I'd been out to a game, and I was just blown away at how consumable the minor league baseball experience was with the pitch clock and how quick the game moved and how quickly the reviews got done. I mean, they just stand there, tap their helmet, have about 5 seconds. That review is over. It was one of my most,
it's the best in sports outside of tennis.
It was legitimately one of my better baseball viewing experiences at any level in a really long time. And I don't really have a question there. Just kudos to you guys. It's a really fun time to watch baseball.
It belongs with tennis, right? I mean, those are the 2 best, most efficient replay systems going.
Without a doubt.
Well, they are, and I'm eager to see if they do, in fact, take the ABS, automatic balls and strikes, for those that don't know, but take the ABS system and use it in the majors. We're hearing that as early as next year it could happen. And when you look at how swift players are moving through the minor leagues now with, a much more brief draft, only 20 rounds, and then there's only 4 levels versus the 6 or 7 depending on which minor league teams you have. So players are moving more quickly. So I think that makes it easier to these test rules that they've had in the minors to bring them to the majors. There's not as much pushback, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Look, I do think from a viewing perspective, if you're there as a fan, yeah, it's more efficient. It's more efficient. We've had a lot of people don't know, but we have had the pitch clock since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't start enforcing it until 2021. And then when you do throw in the ABS, we don't have replay yet on the base paths. That's something that has been talked about. But the flip of that is, as an operator, I don't mind 3-hour games. I do mind 3.5-hour games, but I don't mind 3-hour games. So some of these 215s, 220s, and 235s, are a little swift when, you make a living on selling hats and T-shirts and hot dogs and beer. So there is a balance. There's a little bit of a balance, and those are the things that we continue to review, amongst the 120 on what are the other promotional and business things we can do to continue to, capture a fan and a ticket and a family being in the facility for the amount of time that they used to be, because it is shorter. It is shorter, and those are things that we talk about each day.
Even Sunday with the 28,000 in attendance, that game was 2:20, and it started late. It was amazingly brisk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think people notice the pitch clock, MC. It's just kind of how people do business now.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I think, obviously it's been normalized for years with play clock in football, with the shot clock in basketball, and and look, I was a contrarian when we first brought it in 2015. DB, and I've spoken about it. I for years called it a shot clock. I wouldn't even call it a pitch clock. So I have relented. I have relented, and look, overall, I think it's better for the game. Let's face it. We were talking about. You mentioned TikTok earlier. That's the society in which we are marketing to. We're not really specifically marketing to 50 plus in baseball. We really need to be marketing to 20 to 35 because we have to grow a new fan base, because there is a gap. There's a 35 to 50-year-old gap in there for whatever reason, where baseball lost its pizzazz. Baseball, for whatever reason, it fell behind the NFL, and there are a lot of reasons why. The NBA, even NHL to a degree, and so, baseball, we're still working to get our mojo back as an overall industry.
Well, Marty, I've done whatever I could this year. I think I'm at 2 hats, a jacket.
You're rocking this.
I'll say I got the Storm Chasers hat up here today. I even went out to the garage sale that you guys had, bought myself a couple jerseys out there.
Yeah, I got a quarter zip.
I've been doing my best with the shorter games to help your revenue stream. So I think I've done my part.
Well, I appreciate that. The garage sale is kind of an underrated.
Oh, I love that.
So many different of our theme night jerseys, that we don't normally put in the team store, because most of the time those are for charitable auctions on those nights.
Mm-hmm.
So any listener out there, the next time we do have a garage sale, I think we're going to have one later in the season. So it'll be late August, early September. Just pop out. You may get an Omaha Sizzle. You may even find a stray Runza jersey. Who knows what you're going to find at a bargain price.
I picked up an old school Spikes jersey.
Oh, with the gold lettering?
It's the blue with the red outlines. Yeah. I was super pumped about that, Marty.
I'm sorry. But
it was a cool jersey. I don't know what to tell you.
No.
He hit the apology.
No, people think I've been here so long. They're like, why were you guys the Golden Spikes? That didn't make any sense. I'm like, look, that ended in 2001. I didn't show up to the 2007 season. Please, yep. I really don't have an answer on Golden Spikes. But it's so interesting to me how polarizing that specific name change was. And again, not being here, I don't have the perspective. But, I just kind of go with it.
It was the hand-wringing and consternation over the decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then to eventually go with that, oh, yeah, it was long and drawn out and back and forth. It was a cool logo.
I
just don't think it just didn't, and then it didn't work for very long. So the revisionist history intensifies the disdain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But, it is part of our history. So, every so often we do a turn back the clock night, and yeah, I mean it is. I think it's important to to dig deep and to and not only play as the Runzas or not only play as with our community night ghost lettering jerseys, but to do something like Golden Spikes. And I think it is important to remember history and because I forget that my son who's 16 doesn't even remember Rosenblatt at all. And that's weird to me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That'd be about right.
That's wild.
That'd be about right.
Because
it was
12. A couple years old, right?
Yeah. So here's the other thing. With the partnership with the parent club, and speaking of history, I don't know what the licensing issues would or wouldn't be, but what you guys ought to find a way to do is to somehow weave in a Monarchs reference because the second most worn jersey at the stadium on Sunday behind Bo Jackson was some sort of KC Monarchs jersey. It went Bo, KC Monarchs.
I will say,
and then probably Bobby Witt.
They did the Omaha Rockets a couple years ago. That's one of the hats that I picked up, and those were sweet.
That's the next. And I know you guys got fantastic, marketing folks, both of them. So it's just like who am I to give you guys ideas?
I would snatch up some KC Monarchs gear though if it was available. I'm just saying, Marty.
Hey, so I gotta know though.
It's been a few years.
I gotta know because you're so stinking competitive, and I get it. Butts and seats, that's the biggest deal. But you like to win. Where you're sitting right now. What's the focus for the Chasers on the diamond as you're trying to kind of ramp up for the promotions? I know you got what's coming up on the 11th. Is it Hogwarts? There's one more coming up that's huge too.
Yes,
I think on the 11th. But so
the
what's
11th is Hogwarts night.
What's the next thing we're trying to capitalize on the most, Marty?
You're talking about a baseball or promotion?
Well, you're creative. I think you can weave them both in, right? Can't you, Mr.
Okay.
Competitive?
Well, yes. After this week, we have a first this Saturday night. The Papillion Taco guy is presenting basketball jerseys, so we'll be giving away basketball jerseys to the first 1,000 fans. They're really quality, and I'm eager to see how popular they are. That's Saturday night. But then, yes, the following weekend, as we wrap up the 9-game homestand, we're bringing Harry Potter night back, and there's an opportunity for fans to go buy a ticket and a scarf. They can pick the particular house that they want to support. And that's on Friday night, the 11th, along with fireworks. And then Bobby Witt Jr. bobblehead giveaway on Faith and Family Night. Iams Wealth Management presenting the bobblehead. And, there's a lot of fun, a lot of great things happening. And then on the baseball side, look, I think from a Royals perspective, and some of the conversations that, I have had with, their leadership, they're just focused on who's next from a depth perspective in the minors because they have moved so many guys. If you look at the outfield, you've got Drew Waters, you've got John Rave, you've got Jack Caglione. I could go down the list. All those guys were in Omaha, and I would assume that they believe that some of them would be up at some point. But on the flip side, they didn't probably expect to be releasing Hunter Renfroe as early as they did with the veteran presence and the money they had invested in him. So, they have guys that are up there that they didn't think would be. So now they need to decide who are they backfilling depth-wise at the AAA, AA level.
That's interesting too because I'm looking at Garcia, playing third base. I think they know he's not the long-term answer. So you may have to get while the getting's good for him, which bumps everybody else up there for the organization.
You could, but a lot of times I think we
would you write it out?
Young players. I think you expect young players to be Acuna. I think you expect young players to be, just pick a name on some of these guys that have just exploded on the scene and they haven't missed a beat. But you take someone like Michael Garcia, and he had average to good success in the minors. Mm-hmm. He always had great potential. He goes to the big leagues. And his first year, he actually performed fairly well. Last year, struggled mightily. They did not expect what they're getting, but you could argue that he is their all-star this year. Yes, Bobby Witt Jr. is probably going to make the squad as well, but Garcia, for what he has meant to the Royals this year, has had a more consistent, better year than Bobby, pound for pound. So I don't know. I'm not sure where he fits. Is India in the outfield? Is he third? Is Garcia at second? Is he third? But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I hear what you're saying. You got to play. You have to continue to play the season. Baseball's a grind, and if you judge it on 100 games, you're going to miss something. And we'll see after 162 what happens.
That's our guy, Martie Cordaro, president of the Omaha Storm Chasers. Marty, appreciate the time as always. We'll see you back out at the ballpark.
Hey, thanks, guys. And if anybody's looking for tickets, 4th of July are going quite rapidly. So let our guys take care of you. And hey, you know what? Sounds like I need to do more Golden Spike tonight.
Listen,
we'll keep you, Ravi.
Being about 6 minutes of a drive worth from the ballpark, those fireworks, I can't tell you how me and the pups and the fam are looking forward to it. Oh, wow. Light the sky up, buddy.
Listen, I just like the specialty gear. I've got the Omaha Rockets hat. I've got the old school Omaha Royals hat. I've got the I've got the special red, white, and blue Storm Chasers hat.
This thing is sweet.
I've got it all, man. Like any specialty stuff. And listen, make sure you let me know when that garage sale is because I will be buying more jerseys.
I will. We'll let you know, especially since it's for charity. We'll let you guys know.
You're the man, MC.
it.
Appreciate the tickets, too, the other day,
Robbie.
man. It was fantastic.
I'm glad you guys made it down to the game, and I appreciate you guys supporting local sports, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great week.
Thanks, Perez.
That's our guy, Martie
All right, see ya.
Cordaro.
Bye-bye.
Omaha Storm Chasers.
You know what I meant to ask him, but I didn't want to get on the food thing.
What's that?
Like, what's the traditional breakfast food regionally?
Oh, down in northern
the
Louisiana?
protein.
That's a good question. They seem like a shrimp and grits plates.
It's not.
Or is that New Orleans?
I don't know.
Like shrimp and grits and the andouille and like
I should ask.
the sauce.
I should ask.
You send him a text.
Seviere.
Oh, he would know, yeah.
Because
you
you don't see a lot. You don't see a lot of guys
because he's
just like
southern Louisiana, right?
just eating like bacon
No, but he's southern Louisiana, right? Severe?
or breakfast sausage.
So like ask them both, get the different perspectives from the northern LA and the southern LA.
You think Severe would be just pissed if we just like called him on a humbug? That's kind of what I want to do to Coach Rhule.
Let's call him at like 9:30 because we got a shave coming up next year.
Yeah.
I will say
I was gonna say, don't say that he's from the other LA though.
I think Trey Taylor may have just did a little spoiler alert on Twitter.
Who's that?
Trey Taylor.
I didn't see it.
There's a picture of him, and I believe it's our guy Larry Miles, and he says it's a great day to be a Husker. Let Husker Nation, or a great day to become a Husker. Let Husker Nation know how great you
And
already are.
depending on how you feel about hyphenated last name with Wilkes, it puts him at 11.
12. 12.
Depending on how you
11
feel
or
about
12.
it. Yeah.
So I think we might have another commit here today.
Yeah.
Are we still skyfalling with Nebraska recruiting, or are we cool?
Well, we'll have to get into that with Schaefer, but then it gets into, well, how good are they, and do they want them versus are they backfilling? And, we're never happy.
Some people can't have nice things.
We're never happy.
Like new corners and safeties and maybe a linebacker on the way, too. Who knows? Let's talk to Schaefer coming up next year on Hurrdat Sports Live.
Imagine your first dream home and the feeling of walking inside for the first time. With Centrist Federal Credit Union's First Time Home Buyers program, you are at the doorstep of bringing your vision to life. Welcome home. From your neighborhood mortgage experts, Centrist Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Give me that cheddar, we getting Rico. Big money rolls like burritos. Give me that hot sauce, no pico. Give me that.
Johnson went back, comes in, she makes the catch, and it's a chance for a game-winning double play. That's how it ends. The Arkansas Razorbacks are headed back to Super Regionals.
What kind of goes through your mind as you're preparing to give that final speech?
It's the worst speech of all time because you don't want to rehearse it because then it sounds like you knew it was coming.
It was 12-0. Like we were kind of anticipating, okay, like this is gonna end tonight. Like nobody wants it to, but it's going to.
10, 20 years down the road, the wins and losses, you don't remember them. All the success is great and it is very memorable, and those are part of the good memories. But I think the time we have together on the bus, in the locker room, at practice, on the field, are what lasts a lifetime.
Where you gonna go when the shit breaks?
You just go out there and you look those kids in their eyes and try to articulate to them how much they mean to you and this program. And then when you finish and you stand there and watch everybody, and it's hard. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Exciting on the field stuff. What's been your favorite moment on the field, or something, a certain act that you guys have done? What would you say?
Obviously, my most exciting is my 4-1-1, my dance. When I do my dance during the game, that's the most exciting part for me. But we've had some amazing people come out and play for the Bananas. We've had Dirks Bentley, which that guy's amazing in his own right. He's so humble, such a great guy, and I can't wait to hang out with him after the season's over. But we've had major league players come out and just like, man, this is the most fun I've had on a baseball field ever. And these are guys that won World Series. Like they feel the energy, they bring their family gets to see them do something again. So it's really special.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live, covering Nebraska football and recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Here is Mike J. Schaefer.
Yeah, that's a grown-ass man right there.
Mike Schaefer.
I don't know. There could be bacon involved.
Mike Schaefer.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank Brian Edwards for me.
Here is Mike Schaefer.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where we've joined by an entire peanut gallery of producers.
Yeah, and as usual, cream, or in this case, nonsense, always rises to the top.
He's just giving double birds over there. I didn't even do anything.
It's always you.
What?
No, let's just keep it a buck.
Rico's just giving double birds. I didn't do anything.
That was in defense of. He's just defending it. I don't blame Rico for that. And I'm not just riding with him because it's suave. I'm just saying, like,
Puerto?
Like the last 5 minutes off air, it is clearly always you.
I don't think that's true. That seems like an exaggeration.
Just
always?
I mean,
I don't think you appreciate how much of instigators these two are.
They're just laying in the cut. And believe me, if I could blame AJ for something, I would. But I think that time he was seriously being sincere. It was you that drug that into the weeds.
Sure. I'm not even going to mention his comment because I don't want him to get in trouble. But there is no way that was a genuine,
there is clearly a difference
comment
between sisters and wives and cousins. I'll leave it at that.
That's not what I was even saying.
I think you
Obviously,
intimated it.
No.
Yes, you did. And they both gave you like the look like, why did you even go there? That's not what we were saying.
That's where he went first. You know, Austin, you know why I went there, don't you?
Teflon Don.
Yeah, see?
Teflon Don.
Dodged it.
Shane, as Schaefer keeps popping in and out, is he going to join us or is he not?
He's not on my screen. I haven't seen him.
Well, where is he?
I sent him a message.
I need Mike J. He was just here.
You want to send him a little text? Be like, hey,
I
buddy.
did.
No,
I sent him a text.
I mean, he clearly knows.
What's going on, bud?
Even though we didn't have that initial tweet on social media.
Which one?
Well, we're missing the big one. The one that goes first.
Oh, the first lineup tweet?
Yes.
Yeah, Rico, what are you doing, man?
Oh, is that Rico's doing? I thought I was getting ready to bust full Sasha. Look, he looked at you like you did not just throw me under the bus. Everybody's deferring.
See,
Everybody's
none of us
deferring.
would make it with Coach Rhule because nobody's taking responsibility.
Well, how about that tweet? Did that catch you off guard?
I love it. I love it.
He's not playing.
Because, there's something I've sort of thought, but I wasn't really sure because we haven't talked to him in a while. So I don't know. You should work on that, DB. But
I just sent him a message about great whites in the Cape Cod this morning.
I
know that doesn't help us.
Doesn't help me at all.
I understand.
All I know is I've sort of thought for a little while now that he doesn't just want to win, that he kind of wants to start a revolution. And when he tweets things out like too many people have profited financially off of negativity and despair, their time is over, I'm like, damn it, I was right.
Yeah, he's had it.
Like, my dude is going to war, and he's like, I'm going to win along the way, but I'm also going to change how everything is done. Because it's not enough to just win. I need to also make sure everybody else does things
We have
right.
Mike back.
Yeah, I think he's over it.
I love it.
Ask Mike J. He plays it close to the vest, and if anybody can say what's on their mind, it is definitely Mike J. Schaefer.
Joining us now from Huskers 24/7. What's up, Schaefer?
Oh, sorry, I had some technical issues. Still having, but it should be good.
God, your delivery for a guy that's pretty straightforward is so disarming. Right? I mean, he's cooked me on this show before, so I shouldn't say that. But this guy, he's like, well, my bad. I couldn't get it to. And so then you can't even really poke fun at him because he already ate it.
I was going to poke fun at you. I'd be like,
That's great. Of course you would.
The DB understands technological issues. So.
Of course. Anytime you get a chance to bus roll me. I'm the orbit of the show, Shafe. I just getting bus rolled. How did
That's a good reference. Metro Transit. We love them.
I'm curious, Mike J, because sometimes you're kind of an eye roll guy. Sometimes you will get in the weeds. It just depends. How did Coach Rhule's tweet land with you? With the too many folks have profited off the demise. Their time is over.
Well, do you want a real answer? Or
Listen.
Over this?
There's only one Mike J, right? I mean, you're very unique in this format.
Let's get the truth. What do we got?
I'm curious.
Question the timing of the tweet.
Something that was clearly bugging him.
Yeah, sure. And I want to be sensitive to the fact that I don't know what it is. None of us necessarily know what it. Well, I shouldn't say none of us, but more than likely, most of us don't know what exactly prompted said tweet, what it is related to, how it's necessarily related to Nebraska football, why it makes the most sense to make this tweet on June 30th, all of those things. So it's one of those where you read it, you try to think about it, you wonder if it relates to anything that you're doing, you're wondering if it relates to anything that you care about at all. It's Twitter, and
everybody's scrubbing their social media.
Sure.
You're like, what are we talking about?
And we often ascribe too much value to 140 characters at a time. So, I didn't know what it was about. Frankly, again, being June 30th, it's hard to know whether it should be anything anyone needs to care about that much. But he felt it necessary to put it out there. Maybe he'll get asked about it in Las Vegas here in a month or before then. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it should really matter to me as a media person or to fans or whatever else. I mean, it's Twitter. Again, we don't have to put as much value on it as we often do.
I just cared about if he's seen any great whites up there at the Cape. That's really what I wanted to know. Have there been any shark sightings? I don't know what he's talking about. I did think though,
Sounds like he thinks there's been some sharks in the water.
If I had to guess, I do think it was more on the local scale than national. Because I get the Wasserman stuff. That's kind of like water under the bridge, and he gets it, and he does enough stuff nationally. And is it on the heels of what's happening with recruiting when it was pretty much doom and gloom in the forecast a couple of weeks ago? That could be a thing too.
Let's say that it's local, and let's say that it's about the idea that people have profited off of the negative coverage of Nebraska football. Let's say that's the basis of any of this. why is that tweet being made on June 30th?
Wow.
Yeah. It's a fair question.
Because you picked up 2 offensive line commitments? Like, is it related to recruiting at all?
I think he's got.
I can't imagine that it
he's
is.
for sure got 2 more, I think, coming.
Sure. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that too. But the IB, like, he doesn't strike me as someone who's puffing his chest out because they're now up to either 11
and
or
that's not really
10
his
commitments.
style. I don't know. Something's probably bugging him.
Yeah, and so that's why I don't want to put too much on it, and I really don't want to analyze it, because if it is about the local media coverage, I mean, they won 6 games for the first time in 8 years last year. Like, let's at least acknowledge that if it's been doom and gloom and people have profited off of negativity, it's because there hasn't been a lot of sunshine to go around these parts. So I mean, like, and that's why I don't want to spend a lot of time digging into it, because I don't know. I mean, he can answer this if he wants to put more value on his own tweet at some point, or if somebody asks him to explain it. But it just felt odd, and the timing of it being in June felt odd. Like, maybe that's the sort of tweet that gets made. Even then, it'd be a weird distraction if you start off, 4-0 if a win over Michigan or whatever it is. I don't know. That's why I don't have any real idea as to what the substance of that tweet is about. I just can't imagine, as excited as they are about getting Claude and Puma, and they should be excited. They haven't gotten a lot of offensive linemen like him that I can think of, even just in the 14 years that I've been covering recruiting. But I don't know that that's a reason for that sort of tweet, if it's what I think it's about. But it could be about anything else entirely. Maybe he put a line in a book and it really stood out to him.
You know what's funny is
that wouldn't surprise.
Listen,
I know you're correct. There's a little sarcasm in there, but that wouldn't surprise me either. I mean, you just never know. He's always thinking.
I mean, he might have been reading some more Rudyard Kipling and decided he thought like that quote, because that's what he did last year, right?
He's just constantly thinking.
I didn't think it, for what it's worth, and I know you don't want to stick too long in this, Schaefer, and so we'll move on, but I didn't think it had anything to do with the media. I thought he was talking about, like, the vultures around recruiting, like all the people that are preying on kids.
Yeah, could be.
And like
so initially,
that's what I thought.
Initially, that's what I thought
was that, hey, it's about he's seen too many of these recruitments and these guys be impacted one way or another because they're focusing on, like, oh, well, if you don't do this and if you don't sign this deal, and like,
yeah, like I thought like Obot. I thought like there's a lot of guys that I think people have tried to use the negative.
I mean, I thought
slant
like
towards Nebraska,
the Charmar Brown stuff. Like, I thought like that's where my mind went originally, was just, hey,
you're probably right.
The recruiting thing.
I hate to say that because you're not very.
And when he
smart.
says their time is over, it's like, hey, relationships are going to win. At the end of the day, relationships are going to win.
I like that.
That's what I thought it was about.
Yeah, and that could be entirely what it is. Like I said, it was, as soon as I saw it, I knew it was going to be a discussion that I was uncomfortable with, because none of us can speak for whatever the frame of mind was when he made that tweet, and it's not like there's a media availability right around the corner where he's going to explain it. So I didn't know how to take it. I think Ravi's explanation makes sense to a degree. It also it strikes me as out of character from someone who often is, for as much as Matt Rhule talks, there's generally always a purpose and a reason and something behind the message, and the message might not be aimed directly to who's receiving it, but someone else that might be listening in on it. So, he's a very careful communicator. And so there's, I'm sure, a point to it. I just don't know to whom it's being directed.
Well, shoot, where was your reassurance the other day when I asked you if he was just messing with me? I felt like you were making a lot of jokes over there, Mike.
I thought my comment about how it was just your back was pretty spot on, but you just glossed right over that one.
Oh, because I was terrified. I was like, if he's right, doesn't make me feel any better. He's like, well, let's talk recruiting, man. He's got a chance to hit a hot streak and it might have been you. Yeah, it had to be where you said, gosh, in a couple of weeks, we could be sitting at 12, 13 guys. This could change in a hurry. And you very well may be right here in the next handful of days with where Nebraska ends up. Let's start with O-line because he's got 2 at premium positions in the fold.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like what they've done with this offensive line class. I mean, Rex Waterman was someone that I kind of felt early on they had a great shot with. And, Claude and Puma, Waterman was the first to commit, obviously, and then followed by Hayden Ainsworth, and then the 2 yesterday with Leon Noyle and Claude and Puma. But Puma is such a big one to me because of almost the fact that Nebraska never gets this type of offensive tackle, like just a big NFL traitsy, really raw. Like, this is someone that's going to require a little bit more time, but from talking with offensive line coaches, they almost love getting players like this because they don't have bad habits that you have to coach out of them, that they're usually coming to you in such a way that they have to soak up everything that you're telling them because they don't know anything else. They don't have years of playing tackle and different offensive line coaches teaching them different things. And so I think with Puma, that's sort of exciting in that regard. But then also, I mean, this is a guy that, again, has NFL traits and things that you can't teach in terms of his size and overall athleticism. I love the athletic profile here. He's going to have to learn how to play with power, and that's where getting him into a strength and conditioning program and with the nutritionists and really building up his body and then turning him loose with the guys that are going to be working with him on the offensive line. I mean, you're essentially just given the framework of what could be a potential cornerstone left tackle, and you get to sort of build it as you want under your own real, plan. And so I think that's pretty exciting. And to be able to do that while beating out Auburn and Florida, which as recently as Friday, I was in a conversation with someone who would absolutely know. I mean, Auburn was way out ahead of Nebraska here. And Matt Rhule did what Matt Rhule generally does the best, which is he gets on the phone with these recruits and he explains to them why he feels like Nebraska is a strong fit for them, what Nebraska can offer, why this decision should boil down to, where you're going to be comfortable and where you can get the most out of for where you want to go. And when he's had those conversations, whether it was in Puma over the weekend, Leon Noyle was another one who received the Matt Rhule phone call. I go back to last December, Jeremiah Jones was one of those recipients of it on signing day when he was almost going to flip to Missouri. And Matt Rhule called and calmed him down about, what the future was going to look like for Nebraska and why he should continue to believe in what made him commit in the first place. I mean, he's got a track record of being able to do this. And so they went from Friday, me thinking like, this is Auburn. I mean, with the amount of money that Auburn had planned to invest into it and the relationship that they had built over the weekend, just kept hearing that Nebraska was making its move. And eventually the other two were pulling out entirely because Nebraska had solidified its spot.
You guys both know, low key, I keep receipts and I'm fairly petty. I screenshot 4 DMs because 2 days ago, or was it yesterday, I said, quietly, Coach Rhule is a really good closer, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this was on the heels of them not getting a couple of big guys down the stretch. And some folks let me know that I had logged on to the Homer Network. And I'm like, listen, 3 of the 4 I didn't respond to. But the one guy, I'm like, listen, I'd rather be right than well-liked. And I'm just telling you, I'm not going to say anything about Coach Rhule for the sake of he and I's relationship. Like, I'd rather be right. Like, that guy can close. I've seen it. Like, I know how he acts. I know what he thinks. And I know his level of authenticity. Like, the guy, he can close. If it's whenever he gets ready, that guy can close.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it from other coaches that have been, sitting right there listening to only one side of the phone call, but knowing what the other one was largely sounding like because they were privy to watching him go to work. I think he is unquestionably the best head coach in terms of the actual recruitment side of it, not necessarily the organization or all of that, but just like him in the conversation part of it, by far the best. I mean, compared to Frost and Riley and Pauline. And, it's not like that's some sort of substantial bar to clear, but he's not like a figurehead in recruiting. He's very, very involved in it. And he's often, a really important tool that they can use. Like, I don't think that they just do this all the time, but when they know that he can establish in a relationship, and when he's able to get on the phone with Claude and Puma, or he did it with Danny Odom or whatever, and he just sells them on why he's that excited about Nebraska. Not why they should be, but what he's excited about.
That's the thing.
He sees about Nebraska.
That is the number one thing right there, Schaefer.
He doesn't tell them why they should be excited.
Telling you.
He shows them or explains to them what he is seeing from his eyes and where he thinks this thing is going to go. That is such a better form of communication than someone just telling you, oh, you're going to love it. We have this, we have that, we have, you're going to be great here, blah, blah, blah.
I can't stress how
That's not
important
what
that
it's
is.
like.
That's what I hang my hat on. That's what I gravitated towards early on. His affinity for this place and what it is and what it could be, and him not wavering, why he loves this place so much. Like, that's why I'm in. Like, this guy, he does not hold back on what this place can and will mean. So I'm in, right? There's nothing to not like about that. And he's being authentic.
And then it doesn't feel like a sales pitch, right? Like, that's the big difference when I hear you explain that difference, Schaefer, is when somebody's telling me like, oh, this is why you should do this, this, and this, that feels like a sales pitch. Whereas if somebody's like, hey, this is why I love this place, you do what's best for you, but like, I'm just going to tell you my perspective, that feels a lot more relational and a little bit more authentic than trying to be like, oh, well, we've got the best of this and the best of this. It's like, well, you've been on campus. You already have seen that. I don't have to tell you we've got the best facility in the country. You've seen a bunch of national guys come in and tell you that this is the best facility in the country, and you saw it for yourself. I don't have to tell you that the nutrition's on point. You've been to the training table. Like, that to me makes such a huge difference between like being salesy and just like being a part of somebody's life.
Yeah, absolutely. It transcends, and the message cuts through. I mean, these guys that he does this with, Impuma, Jones, Odom, like they're being recruited by other great recruiters. And they also have been in the process long enough that they have a BS detector, and they know when someone is just sort of trying to sell them something. And so he cuts through that really well.
I mean, you guys, the only time, well, he's probably been mad at me more than this, but I've kind of intimated at this story, whether it's Danny Collins at Minnesota or what's his buckets, the deep Tressel at Wisconsin, or LeVar Woods at Iowa. Like, I'm genuinely concerned about the recruitment of the young guy in our house. And I wanted to tell, I said to Coach, I didn't want to, I told Coach Rhule, I said, listen, man, if you want him, you got to go get him. And he's like, listen, I'm trying to respect you. So don't come knocking on my door all huffy puffy. Like, I'm trying to respect the relationship. And I said, don't worry about me. And he like bristled up. He's like, close. I'll close on his ass with or without you. And he hung up the phone, Schaefer. Like, he was pissed. And I won't forget that conversation, because it was dicey for a couple of weeks where, we weren't like interacting. I'm like, this dude is pretty mad. And like, sure enough, it's
a couple weeks later,
closing time. Like, I was at wit's end. I was just afraid, right? I'm like, these guys are so worried about the relationship and respect. Like, don't, like, just do what you normally would do and let the chips fall where they may. And he's like, yeah, I'll close his ass with or without you. Click. I was like, hello? 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 I'm like, oh, shoot. I ain't calling back. Let's see. But yeah, I like, he's very passionate about this place. And I think that's one of the things that these guys that they feel when they're on campus and they spend time. You know how close he was to getting Sharmar Brown, and they had no business even being in the discussion.
I know what led up to that day, and I know, it felt like they were 15 miles behind everybody else.
They had no business even being in the hunt, and somehow they got there. So I like he's pretty off. It just starts with his authenticity, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's, people want genuine. They want to trust and believe, especially if they're going to uproot themselves and move somewhere and take a chance. They want to believe in what they're taking a chance in. And I do think one of Matt Rhule's tools in his toolbox is he can get you to believe, not just in him or in Nebraska, but in your own belief in him in Nebraska. Like I think that he has that kind of ability to sell with rhetoric. Now, the big thing is how do you follow it up and everything else, and that's going to be a big part of the conversation for 2025. I mean, I know myself going into the last stage of the last visit weekend, just looking at where things were at, it was like they have to close. Like they didn't have a lot of outs here. You know, you had to close Danny Odom because there was no other Danny Odom on your board. You had to close Claude and Puma because that was the best offensive tackle that you had a shot with. And they're very much, I think, in the mindset over there that if they're not getting the higher end of their board, they are not dipping down just to take someone. I mean, that is a huge shift in the previous couple years. And I don't have to name names, but I think you guys can easily go through some of these classes and be like, okay, well, this was someone that they liked from an evaluation standpoint, but wasn't the highest on their board, but they could get them. They got to check a number off the box and they moved on. There's no need to do that anymore. And with 105 cap or whatever it's going to be in the future, you have that on the back end of it, but you also know you have the transfer portal. And I think they like what they have on their roster. So why do they have to just go get somebody to make it look good in a recruiting ranking service? That's not what they're trying to do.
So you brought up two really good points there that I think matter a lot, because that's the question we always get, right? Is, well, do they actually like these guys? Are they just filling spots or whatever? One, and I've given this number before, you got 95 guys in this roster that are sophomore, redshirt freshman, or freshmen. So you don't need that many guys to start. You don't need to fill spots to start with. Second, I think they got really comfortable in this last transfer cycle with the guys they brought in of being like, oh, we feel like we have a good grasp on filling holes this way. We don't have to take flyers on guys in high school.
Yeah, and it's also the circumstance of they changed over that staff, so the relationships weren't going to be as strong for 26. I think they knew that they were going to be building towards 2027 a little bit more than the 26 from the high school standpoint. It allows them to have flexibility when they get to December, depending on how the 2025 season goes, as to what type of portal year they want to have. Do they have to go all in on immediate answers, or do they have answers on their roster so they're able to just continue to backfill with guys that intrigue them, that they want to try to develop, that they think would be good pieces or good role guys or whatever. I mean, it's what you want, right? This isn't, they're not playing poker where they need the last card to get the inside part of a straight. Like they have a lot of outs. You know, they have a lot of outs going into this and how they're building this roster. I think that's a good thing. And then to be able to close on some of the top end guys after having some struggle getting to June. I mean, June has went exceptionally well. It was a lead up to June where you're seeing some of these top players that you wanted coming off of the board that you're not even getting in for official visits. But that was sort of where the rough seas were. But now, I mean, they're coming out of this on the other side of it. They have a class that I think they feel pretty good about. And then they're going to get into potentially being able to flip some of those people that they didn't get the visits for if they go have a good season in 2025.
Yeah, the circling back and could they get to 16 or 17 would be fascinating, because they don't have to. They would just be able to, which is
would be 100% at their discretion of, we want a defensive lineman and we want this defensive lineman.
Yep.
We don't want a defensive lineman. We want this guy from St. Louis or this guy from Miami or that guy from North Carolina.
I'm cheering for that like crazy, Schaefer, because I've been one of these guys that for months has said the philosophy in which they're recruiting under, you want them thinking this way, because if they start winning, it just pays more dividends. They don't have to recalibrate or readjust, because the core of what they do is the core of what they do. They evaluate, they find, they believe in their development. So any winning they do will just be fruit that they've bared. It won't be, well, God, we got to replant, retill, revamp. Like they rolled the dice bet on themselves by staying the course of who they are, and it could pay dividends, man. And it's hard to get people to buy into that when guys are telling them no at the last minute. But for them to not be deterred or to waver, I think even grew my affinity more for the process because they're going to stand their ground.
Well, and then the other thing to remember is that they're going to get into this part of the season. There's still months to go before anyone signs. I mean, I think we've kind of talked ourselves into, okay, the class that you have at the end of June, beginning of July, like that's what this is going to look like when you sign it in December. And that's not necessarily true. And on top of it, I think when we get to what likely going to be an insane cycle of coaching changes, the position coaches and relationships and stuff is going to get blown up in November. And Nebraska leaving out, having flexibility, maintaining relationships, not writing people off just because they chose to commit somewhere else. That's going to pay off for them in November should they maintain that flexibility. And it gives Pat Stewart an opportunity to continue to grow into his role and to have a better feeling for things. You get to see what you have on the roster. I mean, the approach makes a ton of sense.
Quietly, do you know what else I like? I'm one of those guys that was kind of I wasn't out on an island, so I don't want to do that. But the 500-mile.
You've often been out in space, just kind of floating.
We're not hitting Case Kings in 1 outer, Schaefer. I mean, the winning hand, okay? But I've said this for probably, you guys know this, and Schaefer, you're a day oneer. The 500-mile radius was never a huge. I thought it was a little overstated, right? I just thought we made too big of a deal. And I'm not saying I want to be dismissive of like the Kansas City area or St. Louis or some particular regions, but I do like the fact that Nebraska's shown it's not so much about specific numbers as much about where they can make hay and where their interests lie. Right? That you can see Kansas City is important. You can see St. Louis is important. You can see Miami is important. You can see pockets of Texas are important. You can see some parts in the Northeast. It doesn't have to be, man, we've got to lock such and such and such and such up. And they're finding a way to make that work. That part I like because I've never been a 500-mile radius guy.
Yeah, and I don't know that it was ever like, oh, we need X amount of our recruits to come from here. A lot of it was, hey, there's talent that we think can help us. Let's go get it, whether it's in Castle Rock, Colorado, or
how do we
Sioux
best
City,
utilize
Iowa.
our resources?
Right. And then, on top of it, some of the success you're having in Florida is because a guy like Ja'Cory Barney came in as a freshman and is playing well. A guy like Willis McGahee and Vincent Shavers have opportunities in their second year to really cement defensive spots and really be part of the rotation. I mean, when we talk about the Pied Piper effect, you got to have guys that come from the area that are representing on television, and like when they come back, or if you're going through their school, that their jersey number is displayed in a way that they're at Nebraska, they're having success. It makes it easier to go into Miami. It makes it easier to go into Florida. Larry Miles makes his decision later today, and if you're Larry Miles and you look at what happened with Ja'Cory Barney, and you think, hey, that's what a slot receiver can sort of do in Nebraska and have that kind of impact. I'm probably a better receiver, like straight receiver, than Ja'Cory Barney was by the time he got to college because he had to do all this other stuff. There's a great opportunity for me in Nebraska. So I so much of it also in pockets when it's further outside the 500-mile radius is you have examples of these guys having success in Nebraska. And can I see myself having success there too? Because a guy that I know that was a couple years older than me is having success there. I mean, that's a huge part of this whole thing.
Chafe, last thing from me here. You mentioned Larry Miles making his decision this afternoon. You've got Darian Jones at the end of the week.
Calvin Thomas coming up.
Are there any other guys that you know of with impending decisions that could impact Nebraska here within the next few days?
Yeah, I mean, the other big one that you guys haven't mentioned is on July 3rd, Devin Jackson makes his announcement. I want to say it's 11 a.m. Central Time. Hearing a lot of Oregon, but also yesterday, there were a lot of whispers about Nebraska that was coming out of that 7-on-7 deal too. And not just because they got Danny Odom and Trey Taylor was down there and throwing to Larry Miles, but I think there's some coaching staff that think Nebraska is involved in that one and will be involved until, whatever Devin Jackson says. So I know there's some momentum for Oregon there, but I think Nebraska is going to be involved in that. They definitely want a safety. He's on the high end of the board, and we'll see. I think the connection to Danny Odom does matter, and maybe we'll get another patented Matt Rhule phone call that we hear about on the back end of this.
Yeah.
If they, out of those 4, what would your gut say? How many do they land?
I feel good about at least 2. I don't think they're going to go 4 for 4, but I think they could get 2, and in a perfect world, they could get 3. I mean, they've done a nice job of, like I said, being flexible and making sure that these recruits know, even after they've left their visit, that they had a good time and that Nebraska's here for them if they're interested.
Hey, Mike J, well, how I'm curious here about the last weekend in September with the Steelers and the Vikings. We have the Bengals right before that, the Falcons, the Bears. Like, how good do you feel about you guys this year? Because my mood is not very good right now with the Steelers, and I don't want to have you on that the week after, and you've hung a 40 spot on us. Like, how are you feeling about your Vikings?
I think that they have a terrific roster, and I have no
early
idea.
Game too, Schaefer. Are you making me breakfast, or what are we doing on the 26th?
I was going to see if you wanted to just fire up your Blackstone, and I would come over and sit politely and eat, and
I thought
watch
you
as Aaron Rodgers tanks another season for another team.
I'm good on it. He's just the better cleaner. that thing is a nightmare. Yuck.
Is that thing at Minnesota?
No,
no, that's in.
Okay.
It's 8:30.
Yeah.
Oh, that's early. That's
Minnesota has back-to-back games over in Europe, England. I don't know. One of them's in Scotland, maybe.
It's the UK tech.
Yeah, for as much as I know about American history, I know very little explanation whatsoever why it's called the UK, and then we also split them out into countries, but then their voting block is different. I don't understand any of it. That's why they fought a war that we get to celebrate Independence Day here in a couple of days, that we don't have to care about European or United Kingdom history, right?
Yeah. Schaefer, let me ask you something real quick, random college football.
That wasn't random enough.
That was pretty random. That was really random. It was selfish, too, with a Vikings and Steelers reference.
I had no idea where you were going.
As it relates to how the final picture looks in college football, for you, which game is more important in the week span? Is it Iowa State, K-State, or LSU and Clemson?
I think it's LSU Clemson. I really do, because I just don't know. The Big 12 feels like a one-bid league. I don't know which of the teams is going to come out of that. So that game could be really important, but I think
it seems like an elimination game, because the easy answer would be LSU Clemson. I'm not sure, because both those schools will have
still
other
make the
opportunities.
playoff
if
they lose that game.
So I'm just curious on the perspective.
Yeah, I don't know that I feel so confident about either Kansas State or Iowa State that the winner of that would just have it on easy street the rest of the way. I don't know what to do
What
with
if
the Big
Iowa
12.
State gets K-State and Iowa in those first 3 weeks?
It would be cause for celebration for them.
My Rocco Beck stock is cashing in, baby.
How many wins do they have over Iowa in the last 15 years?
2.
They have like a million close losses.
Campbell is 2, and he's only got 2
2
wins
and 7
against,
or something.
He's only got 2 against Kirk.
Yeah, like Nebraska Iowa State fans handshake meme over just feeling sad every time they play Iowa and inexplicably lose the game.
Say, if I'm going to keep saying this until I'm not nervous anymore, Nebraska has got to find a way to beat Minnesota and Iowa in the same season.
I don't love that trip to Minnesota. I know that much. And I don't even think the Gophers are that good, but
Iowa State has won 2 of the last 3.
They have.
Ooh.
But
those are his 2 wins.
So it's 2 and 7 overall for Campbell. So just 2 of the last 3, not bad.
Thanks for nothing, Mike J. Geez, not only are your Vikings going to be good, but you're with me on the Gophers too. I actually think they're going to be pretty good, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be Minnesota good, which is 7-5, 8-4. I don't think they'll be any better than that. They'll have moments where you wonder how they beat anybody, and then they'll have inexplicably one game where they hang around way longer than you think they will. That's PJ Fleck, that's Minnesota, and I think you can just pretty much put that in Sharpie right now.
That's
man.
our guy, Mike J. Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Schaefer, enjoy the holiday weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, guys. Take care. That's it.
Are you a fireworks guy?
No.
Me neither.
Honestly, I could have gone either way, and then with dogs, I'm totally out. My dogs
are
hate
cool. They don't. I'm fortunate. They don't.
Mostly just one. Doug hates them. The other two are okay.
My dogs don't trip.
Doug hates them.
But anyway, yeah, that conversation that I've told you that I think off topic with Coach Rhule and
yeah, the go close his ass.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Coach Rhule stories you've told me.
Yeah, and it started over reports on recruiting websites.
Yeah.
He's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was very awkward."
I do think, maybe we should get Caleb on here someday to like have a conversation about like how close he was to not going to Nebraska. Because I don't think like people assume like, oh, he's Damon's kid and he's a legacy and he's from Omaha. I think they assume.
Have they ever met that dude?
It was a lot of them have not. I think a lot of them assume it was a foregone conclusion. It was not. Let's take a super quick break here. Then we'll get to Michigan Lance, and we won't talk about Bo Jackson at all. We will talk about the Big Ten quarterbacks.
Although he may have done some soul searching yesterday. And
found the Lord.
Yeah, and I want Shane to ask him his question because Shane brought it up.
Yeah.
About the beloved.
Yeah. Let's let him get to his Big Ten quarterbacks before we bring up old stuff. Because I mean,
you're always bringing up old stuff.
Why are you bringing up old stuff? It's 2 days in a row. Michigan Lance has been trying to call in to talk about Big Ten quarterbacks. By God, we're going to let him talk about Big Ten quarterbacks. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Live.
Give me that cheddar, we getting Rico. Big money and rolls like burritos. Give me that hot sauce, no pico. Give me that.
That's a great question, and I thought it had been asked a lot earlier. Listen, I'll say this: there's a lot of unanswered questions as this thing will progress. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad the case was finally settled, and now we can move on with our lives. At least for the rules that we've heard. We had our league meetings in LA. We talked to our commissioner a lot about how this thing was going to take place. Talked to Troy Dannon in leadership of our athletic program about what to expect. And, listen, from everything we understand, revenue sharing is going to be the main source for these guys now. The true NIL deals are going to have to go through the clearinghouse that's run by a very reputable company with Deloitte. And, we'll see how that all plays out on what a fair market value is for somebody to be approved an NIL deal. But until we see, a deal that's rejected, which I don't think that's happened yet, what exactly the parameters are within an NIL deal getting approved.
We're in the neighborhood, just down the street. With a wide variety of home equity products to help you create a relaxing oasis. So you can kick back and relax in comfort. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
A lot of pace, definitely like high IQ. Feel like you really can't be as selfish a little bit. Like I said, just setting up other players. When I first got into the role, I mean, obviously it was a little nerves, my first time playing it, so I just had to go through that, the good and bad, and just take all that and, kind of just implement it now.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by
every 6
Centrist
days,
Federal
not bad.
Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Shout out to our guy David, listening out in Cape Cod. Appreciate him.
Couple of Cape Cod guys.
Yeah, I wonder if he's ran into Coach Rhule out there. Maybe they're going like whale watching. Does that sound like a thing they would do?
I'm looking for shark sightings. The heck with the whales, unless they're orcas.
Well, see, I like whales because the whales are the ones that bring
And
the big
orcas
money.
and great whites aren't going to be anywhere near each other after the first kill. So great whites are leaving the area. I can promise you that.
Let's get to our guy, Michigan Lance, here. See if we can actually get to the thing he called about yesterday. Lance, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, good morning, boys. How you doing?
How we doing?
Hey, my son said yesterday, he said, yeah, Dad, yeah, DV got you. I said, yeah, I know. He started hitting me with them stats. I said, yeah.
I've loved LG from the jump. He's just been a cool
Hey,
kid his
so-
whole life.
I said, yeah. I said, so here's what happened. I said, now, that's what happens when you're prepared, when one person's prepared and the other one's not. And so
You used it as a
DV
life
was
lesson?
well prepared for that argument. He was well prepared for that argument.
Well, I've been
Once
sitting
he-
on
I
it
said-
for years.
Oh, I know. I said so once he started hitting stats, I'm not even ready for this argument, then yeah, it's over. He got me. But one thing you know about me, DB.
You're going to go back.
Exactly. Now,
All right, rebuttal.
Let's go back to real time.
Okay.
Here's the beauty about Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders. They actually played at the same time.
Yeah.
So we don't have to use hypotheticals or anything. So Bo Jackson's full-time sport was baseball. Football was secondary. Deion Sanders' full-time was football. Baseball was secondary. So Deion Sanders went to training camp every year for football. Bo Jackson finished the baseball season, which went into football season, and then came onto the football field.
Can I ask a
Now,
question, though,
if you
Lance?
take-
Real quick, can I
Go
ask a
ahead.
question? If baseball was Bo's full-time and he was a power hitter, shouldn't he have better than a 70-point OPS lead on my guy Deion there?
Now, this goes back to what was that? Hold on. What was that at the time they played against each other? Not Deion's whole career. Let's just use the time they both played. That's what. So, because my argument, not the people, not the world who DB is really who DB is really talking about, but me, the Bo Jackson fan and Deion Sanders fan, but Bo more, at the time they both played, count their stats from that. And then, because once Deion's done with Bo's done with football, well, it's over because he's continuing to go. Because I'm only talking about the time that they both played. And when they both played at the same time, college or pros, Bo Jackson was better. Look at Bo Jackson's stats at the time they both played.
I disagree.
Then that's what we need to research next.
Okay, but
That's
hang
fine,
on.
you can disagree.
I want
At
to move on from the Bo Deion thing, but I will simply say this: having played both sports, not at their level, but one sport I signed a free agent contract in, the other I was legitimately drafted in. So, and I'll say this about both sports: for Deion to dabble in baseball,
harder.
and be as good as he was is significantly more difficult than moonlighting in football as a gifted athlete. That is a fact. So while we're comparing eras real time, the degree of difficulty to do what they were doing still advantage prime time. Still.
Now that's where I disagree. That's fine. And we
Listen,
can
I'd much rather tomorrow
playing baseball part-time is almost impossible.
Tomorrow, Lance, you could put any ball off of jugs, off a foot, and I'll catch 95% of them. If you only could run it up to 85 mile an hour tomorrow, I may only hit 20% of those balls. And I'm 50. I'm just telling you. Baseball significantly more difficult than football. It's not even, it's like.
Especially to part-time. To part-time it is. I mean, that's almost impossible.
Anyway, let's get to the Big Ten quarterbacks.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about quarterbacks, Lance?
Yes, quarterbacks, man. The Big
Is Underwood going to start? That's all I want to know. What it be, Will? What do all your Michigan guys say? Is he starting?
Oh yeah, by third or fourth game for sure. Yeah, give him third or fourth game, he'll be the starter.
Okay.
We brought in some transfers.
Yeah.
Those guys are just, hold the spot until he's ready to, take over. That's the deal.
I hope his first start is against Nebraska. That would be great.
What's that?
I hope his first start is against Nebraska. That'd be great. Can you speak that into existence?
Hey, you guys would love that, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would.
But hey, man, there's been talk about Big Ten, SEC conference, big time, and other conferences are a little bit lower in recruiting and all that, right? But, when you talk about quarterbacks, hey, the Big 12 is doing pretty well in the NFL quarterback, more so than SEC and Big Ten.
And it's the deepest quarterback conference this year. It may not be as high end
but
as the
12
Big
deep.
Ten, but you could go 12, 13 deep in the Big 12 just this year.
But the Big 12 has been like that probably the last 10 years or so, maybe, close to 10. You know what I mean? Somewhere 7 to 10. So when you're recruiting quarterbacks, Big 12 ain't no slouch. It's better than the Big 10 and SEC when it comes to NFL.
So, Lance,
we can't knock other conferences when it comes to recruiting quarterbacks. Where they get their offers.
I went through this a few weeks ago because when we were doing our quarterback drafts, and I was trying to figure out why some of these guys in the SEC were getting the benefit of the doubt over, like a DJ Lagway is getting the benefit of the doubt over a Dylan Raiola, or why a Lenore Sellers is getting the benefit of the doubt over a Nico out at UCLA. So I was trying to figure this out here, and somebody brought up, hey, it's because the SEC quarterbacks have performed better in the NFL. So I did a deep dive. I was just like, okay, I'm going to figure out where everybody's from. And that's just not true. The SEC has a recency bias, like a lot of the more recent first-round picks are from the SEC, like the Alabamas especially. But you go back and you look at the guys, like you're saying, the guys that are successful in the NFL right now, most of those guys did not finish their careers in the SEC. They may have started there, guys like your Bo Nixes and your Jalen Hurts, but the guys that are doing really well in the NFL right now, most of those guys are not SEC guys.
They got significantly better when they left the SEC.
A lot of them did, yeah.
And the Big Ten, hey, who's the Big Ten banking on now? J.J. McCarthy, he's unproven. We have to see what he's going to be.
So C.J. Stroud is probably the best young guy out of the Big Ten.
And even in a sophomore slump won a playoff game. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'd ride with that guy.
I'd ride with Stroud, yeah.
Right, and I'm with Stroud, too. I'm definitely – but that's one guy, right? So that's my thing. There's certain things where you can talk about conferences and recruiting about, O-line, D-line, Big Ten, SEC, yeah, for sure. Even DBs, receivers are tossed up. You can be a good receiver in any conference. That kind of doesn't matter. But, but when it comes to, quarterback and even running backs and stuff, hey, man, I don't want to hear, well, this conference, I don't care about this offers from these schools when, hey, man, it's pretty successful in the NFL.
Hey, let me ask you something real quick about the whole Michigan thing. If Underwood is the guy, right? Why do you think they brought in a guy that had been at 3 previous stops in June? In Garcia.
Because I still think I believe that they still want somebody to to get started and to hand the keys off. And maybe it's because, Sharon Moore is also going to be missing games early. Maybe that made it, you know what I mean? And maybe who they got, because I can't remember who the other guy they got, like, before spring ball. Who was it?
Mikey Keene is
from Fresno State.
Mikey Keene is probably the backup right now.
Yeah, from Fresno State. And so they might not have liked what they saw with him to hand it off to Underwood. I think maybe that coaching missing them games might have something to do with it too. But I don't mind kind of, hey, man, it's a $10 million investment. You got to make sure, like, hey, man, we got to make sure everything's right for you. We got to do everything for you to succeed when it's ready for you to get on the field, because if he comes out, start game one and lays an egg, man, there's not going to be any sympathy. And there's not going to be, he's making $10 million. How come he isn't good enough? Like, hey, there's not going to be any progression or growth, you know what I mean, with that. Like Raiola, right? Like, do we know his numbers officially? Like, do we really know his NIL number officially or no?
No, not officially,
no.
Right. See, but if we did know that number, and if it's a high number, people would look at it different. Everything was good with Raiola because we didn't know that number. So it's like, hey, hey, he's young, he's growing. Let him grow. Hey, man, this guy $10 million. He ain't letting that grow. You know how fans are, and Nebraska fans will be the same way if you knew the number, but you don't know the number. So it's like, hey, he's just out there playing football. So this kid isn't going to get that chance.
Let me ask you something. Do you think whether we pay attention to numbers in terms of what we anticipate a guy's getting from NIL will matter in terms of how we critique him? Or are we just going to dumb it down or boil it down to football? Like, will we look at Carson Beck and think, man, this guy's rumored to be a $4 million quarterback? Or do you think we'll just look at Carson Beck as a player?
I believe if we know the exact number, what do fans always do?
So will we look at Texas and say this is a $22 million NIL team?
Or you do with Texas Tech if they go 8-4 with however much money they spent.
Yeah.
I believe, yes, I believe that's what people are going to say. Hey, you're making all this money. You ain't won the championship yet.
Yeah.
You got the highest payroll. Hey, well, look what happened to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
What happened to them? That's the biggest payroll. Hey, man, you're not getting it done. Fired, kids transferring. Like, man, Jimbo at the highest payroll. Where's Jimbo Fisher at, guys? When you know the number, when you know who's getting the highest, come on, man. And once people hear them dollars, man, the expectations change.
That's the unintended consequence.
And people, and I'm telling you, that's why Raiola's doing. That's why he don't got any heat, because we don't know the number. Man, you know how to. That's why you are the way you are on the radio.
It's early for Dylan though. Like I think we still. I think we still.
Go ahead.
I think we're cautiously optimistic that year 1.25 with Coach Holgerson and his talent upside, we're not ready to make any definitive judgments.
Right, because you don't know the number. I'm telling you, you know how the fans are. You know how Nebraska fans are, DB. That's why you are the way you are on the radio. If they knew that number, man, and if not, let me say this, if the number is high, because if the number's above 5 or something, I don't know, 4, if it's a high number, one of the top in the country, hey, now, hold on. Hey, we need more. And that's just how fans are. Hey, this ain't enough. You're the only reason you're saying and fans are patient right now because you don't know the number. It looks like he's on scholarship from the 90s. It looks like he just got an academic scholarship.
Yeah, I think.
But hey, he's making some money now.
Lance,
he's making some money. Go ahead.
Lance, I think that might be true for a lot of situations. I think with Rhule and Nebraska, it's a little different because Nebraska wasn't in the running for other 5 stars, right? I think when you're comparing like things.
That's interesting.
Like if you're at Georgia and you're like, we could have spent $1 million or $2 million or $10 million on some other guy, then you get mad about the number. When you're at Nebraska, it's like, okay, we were either going to pay X for Dylan Raiola nobody else that was worth X was looking at us at the time. So we would have been playing a third of that to Chubba Purdy or whoever else the other guy was, right? I think that does change the equation about the number a little bit because it's not a one-to-one. The Dylan Raiola money wasn't going to go somewhere else. He was the only guy that money was going to go to because no other five-star was looking at Nebraska at the time. So I do think that matters too when you're not saying like, well, if you're Georgia and you're sitting there and you go, hey, we could have spent this money on Gunnar Stockton or we could have spent this money to keep Carson Beck and we chose Gunnar Stockton, then that's where the money becomes a thing in a much larger degree.
I kind of agree. I would lean that way.
Okay. So here's my question. Why don't we know his number then?
I just don't think we're going to get
other people's numbers.
We're not going to get in the habit of doing that.
I would say we don't know anybody's number at Nebraska.
I think
really.
Troy Dannon will be one of the last ADs to openly share the revenue splitting pie too from the settlement agreement. Like I just don't. It's just not how we do things here. We just aren't in other people's pockets all the time.
Well, here's the thing though. But when we do hear it, we get into it. Come on, man. You've had people call in talking about other, teams, A&M or other people getting money and talking about, well, he's making this much money. You've heard that.
So we do that with Lance, we do that with coaches because
we do it with athletic. We did it with Trev.
We do it with coaches. We do it with athletic departments because we know that money's going to go somewhere, right? It's like, okay, if we were going to spend $9 million, let's say somebody's mad at Matt Rhule. Let's say, hey, we're going to spend $9 million on Matt Rhule. Why couldn't we?
We've heard it used against Coach Rhule.
Yeah. It's like,
I mean, Game Dog lit us up over
$9 million a year. He should win more. So we do it with coaches because we think, hey, we could go get a different coach for $9 million. My point is with quarterbacks, especially, but in kind of the roster in general, Nebraska isn't currently playing in the pick 5 stars off of a tree pool. So the numbers are going to be a little different when you're comparing them at Nebraska versus an Ohio State or a Georgia or an Alabama now.
I'm with Coach Fulcher in the comments. We don't need to know. I am 100% with Coach Fulcher.
Lance, just to wrap up your initial argument here about as we got to close the show here. The only SEC quarterback that we care about in the NFL is Joe Burrow. In terms of dude.
That's not true.
Who?
Yeah, and he was a 1-year rental.
Jaden Daniels.
He was one season.
1 year.
Jaden Daniels is in that discussion. But, I mean, Josh Allen is from Wyoming. Lamar Jackson's from Louisville. Mahomes played at Texas Tech.
Goff is from California. Mayfield was Oklahoma before the SEC. Jalen Hurts was Oklahoma before the SEC. Pick a guy. The only Herbert was Oregon.
Sam Darnold.
USC.
The kid at Arizona.
Kyler Murray.
Back that played at Oklahoma. Kyler Murray, yeah.
Pre-SEC Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So Jaden Daniels is a 1 year. But yes, we care about him. But in terms of the established guys that we're looking at, the top quarterbacks in the league, it's just Joe Burrow from the SEC.
Now, DB, tell Ravi why I really brought this up off air. You know why I brought this up, right, DB?
Just because you're talking about the perception of the conferences.
Yeah, but there's a more personal reason I brought this up. But don't say it on the air, because I'm not, I'm still trying to get my son recruited.
I think you might have just said it without saying it. But Lance, we appreciate you.
Yeah, I got you.
Appreciate the call, Lance. Right. We'll catch up with you later. All right. That's Hurrdat Sports Live for the day. DB and I will be back tomorrow.
Politician.
Just, hey, it's July before you know it. We got fall camp in 3 weeks. Let's go.
And we didn't even, we
still haven't gotten anything.
We left about 58% of the rundown.
Oh, that's
we'll keep you entertained. There is no July dog days for us. We're going to bring it regardless.
We are taking a little break next week, but we will still have some content for you. Don't you worry about it. We'll be back tomorrow. Hurrdat Sports Live.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.